Welcome. Today's story is a journey through love, mistakes, family struggles, and the lessons of growing up. Listen closely, feel the emotions, and let the story guide your English learning in a natural and meaningful way. The Price of Growing Up. Chapter 1. Facing the Room. I am not just a little scared. No, not me. I am terrified. I hate the smell inside hospitals, that mix of cleaning chemicals, waste, sick bodies, and fear. And I don't know what I will see when I look at her. I mean my mother. Luckily, Auntie Chee Seng is here with me. She makes me feel calmer. She gives me a sense of safety, even when bad things are happening. She is old, yes, but that doesn't matter. I know she will help me face whatever is waiting behind the white door. The nurse, in her neat white uniform, calls us and opens the door to the private room. Auntie Chee Seng holds my hand, and together we go inside. Suddenly, I notice how strange it seems. I am only 16, yet I am much taller than Auntie Chee Seng, who is at least 50 years older. But even though I am tall, I am still full of fear. Thank goodness she is with me. She may be old and small, but she feels strong. She is truly tough. After the bright corridor, the room seems dark. It takes a short time for my eyes to adjust. Slowly, shapes begin to appear. The bed and the small table with a glass. The plastic curtains beside the bed. The shadow under the sheets, with tubes coming from the nose and the arm, linked to a frame with a hanging bottle. The machine with red and green lights. The table with bottles of medicine and metal trays. A chair near the bed. The chart hanging at the foot of the bed. The sink in the corner. The dark form of a wardrobe by the door. I can just see the outline of the window, but the green curtains are shut, making it look like a television screen that is switched off. We stop just inside the door. The body on the bed does not move, but we hear faint breathing. As my eyes adjust, I can see the sheets rise and fall. We walk quietly towards the bed. Auntie Chee Seng tells me to sit in the chair. Is this really my mother? All I can see is the pale shape of her face and the white hospital gown. Her eyes are closed. A tube is fixed to her arm, and another runs into her nose. I take her hand. Her skin feels dry, like paper. There is no movement. It is like holding a doll, loose and lifeless. But just when I am about to let go, I feel her hand press mine. It is a small movement, but it is a sign of life. Still, her eyes do not open. Her face stays still. She feels far away, as if she is on another world. Is this really my mother? Is this really happening? How did things come to this? Why is she lying here, struggling for her life? Is it because of me? What mistake did I make? What did we all do wrong to reach this point? Fear rises in me. Sadness, anger, and despair fill me all at once. She must be very ill to be in the intensive care unit. My head feels light. My stomach turns. I cannot think clearly. I cannot breathe. I need fresh air. I cannot stay here any longer. I must get out. It has all happened so quickly. They only let me leave the police station this morning. Auntie Chee Seng was the one who came for me and brought me here. Now, after seeing Mum, I realize how wrong I was about so many things. Come, Chee Seng, we should go now, Auntie Chee Seng says gently. She seems to understand exactly how I feel. I take one last look at the shadow of my mother on the bed, then follow Auntie Chee Seng into the bright corridor light. The nurse guides us into a cool and quiet waiting room. She gives us cold drinks. Don't worry, says Auntie Chee Seng. The doctor will come after he has finished with the other patients. Chapter 2. When Things Changed. As I sit in the plain white waiting room, my thoughts drift to our life as a family. What happened to us? When did everything begin to fall apart? Up until about a year ago, life felt perfect, or at least it seemed that way to me. Dad was doing well at work. He had just been promoted to export manager at Intercorp, his company. On weekends, we often went out together. We lived in a comfortable house in a green suburb of Kuala Lumpur called Subang Jaya. On weekends, Mum and Dad often invited friends over for lunch, dinner, or parties. My parents, Mr. Sammy Yeo and Linda, were well liked by everyone. Whenever I think back to those times, they shine like golden memories in my mind. As a child, Dad was the center of my world. He was a wonderful father and always there for me. Most evenings after work, he would take me to the park at the top of our street to play football or help me practice basketball. He always helped me with my schoolwork, especially maths. He was brilliant at it. No surprise that he got promoted. Most nights he read to me before bed. Once he even read the whole Lord of the Rings to me. It took him months. He taught me to swim and arranged tennis lessons for me too. Every memory of him glows warmly, even now, after all that has happened. So when did things begin to change? I think back to my last birthday. I had just turned 16, and Mum and Dad had arranged a big party for me. Mum came from a large family, and so did Dad. So our house was filled with uncles, aunts, and cousins from everywhere. That wasn't all, because Mum and Dad also had many friends. I called them Uncle and Auntie, even though they weren't related. Of course, Auntie Veena and Uncle Krish were there. They were my parents' closest friends. My school friends came too. Dev, Faisal, and Cartoon. Dev, short for Devinder, was Indian-Malaysian and lived just up the street in Subang Jaya. He was very good at sports, especially hockey. Faisal lived just around the corner and came from a Malay family. Cartoon was Chinese-Malaysian and lived far away in a rich neighborhood. We were all different, but that never stopped us from being the best of friends. Mum was an excellent cook, and so were many of her friends. So the party was full of delicious food. Our Indian friends brought samosas and all kinds of curries. Malay friends brought satay with peanut sauce and spicy beef rendang. Chinese friends and relatives came with Hainan chicken rice, hot Szechuan tofu, and Peking duck, served with thin pancakes. Our Straits Chinese relatives, Auntie Chee Seng and Auntie Rosie, brought Peranakan dishes such as asam laksa, one of my favorites, with its sour tamarind flavor and spicy fish soup. And to finish it all, Mum brought out a huge birthday cake with 16 candles on top. Yet, even though life seemed perfect, something felt a little strange. Once or twice, I noticed Mum giving odd looks at Auntie Veena. Auntie Veena was Indian-Malaysian and very beautiful. When she was younger, she had been crowned Beauty Queen of Selangor State, and it was easy to see why. At my birthday party, she wore a dark red silk sari with a gold border and white jasmine flowers in her hair. Mum was attractive too, but in a different way. Uncle Krishnan, on the other hand, was the complete opposite. He was bald and had a large stomach. Sometimes I wondered why someone like Auntie Veena had married him. But he was cheerful, full of jokes, and also Dad's closest friend from school and university. Mum and Auntie Veena got along very well too, often laughing together when they were busy. Before Mum married Dad, she had worked at Veena's father's company, and that was when their friendship first began. The four of them spent a lot of time together, especially on weekends. That was why Veena and Krishnan were at my party. Then I remembered something else. After the delicious food and the cake cutting, I went upstairs with my friends to play the video games they had given me. The adults stayed downstairs, talking and relaxing on the terrace and in the lounge. Some of them even dozed off in their chairs. It was that sleepy time after a big meal. After a while, I went down to get some cold drinks for my friends. As I stepped out of my room, I saw Dad and Auntie Vina on the stairs. They were looking at each other in a way I had never seen before, and Dad's hand was resting on her bare arm. He quickly pulled it away when he noticed me. They both looked uneasy. Dad went upstairs, mumbling something to me, while Auntie Vina hurried down the stairs. I went back to my games and didn't think much about what I had seen. I even forgot about it completely when Dad came in later with a big basket. I heard scratching inside, and when he opened it, there was the small black and white dog I had wanted for so long. "What shall we call him?" Dad asked. "Let's name him Raj," I said. Everyone clapped as Raj barked happily. It was the perfect day. From then on, Raj became my most loyal and closest friend. But now, sitting here in the hospital, waiting for the doctor and thinking about Dad, another memory pushes into my head. The bedroom, the cries, the shapes moving on my parents' bed. I cannot stop that image from returning. It is burned into my mind like an iron mark on a shirt. How did it come to this? Why did it all happen? Why couldn't we have stayed in the best of times forever? These dark thoughts fill me again. Tears rise in my eyes. Auntie Chee Seng sees my sadness. She holds my hand and gives it a gentle squeeze. I glance up at the clock. When will the doctor arrive? Chapter 3. Secrets in the Night. The hands on the clock move painfully slowly as I sit on the hard chair in the waiting room. I keep trying to remember how things began to change after my birthday party. There wasn't one clear moment, but many small signs. Teenagers notice a lot from the mood, from what happens around them. Sometimes it is just a slight uneasiness, a sense that something is different, though you cannot explain it. But the feeling is real. That was how it felt for me in those months after my birthday. It was like a sickness in the air, unseen but definitely there. Only now, looking back, can I see the pattern. At the time it was just a nervous feeling in my stomach, a sense of danger and insecurity, slowly replacing the happiness I once felt. I began to see that Dad was coming home later and later from work. Mum gave excuses for him, but I could tell she wasn't pleased. Neither was I. It meant he was no longer there to play football or basketball with me in the park. In fact, I rarely saw him. He left early and returned after I was already asleep. It felt wrong. I had always been used to spending time with him, and now his absence left a big empty space in my life. He has a big new product coming out next month, Mum told me when I asked. But the month passed, and another, and still he came home late. One afternoon I came back from school, and Mum wasn't there to greet me as usual. After some time, she came out of the bedroom. Her eyes were red and swollen. I knew she had been crying. "What's wrong, Mum?" I asked. "It's nothing," she replied in a strained voice. "I just have too much on my mind. It's fine, nothing for you to worry about." She forced a smile. "Now, let me make you some noodles with seafood sauce, or would you like something else?" She called Purissima, our Filipina maid, from her room, and they went into the kitchen together. I liked Puri, that was her short name, because Purissima was too long. She was small and tidy, and she always seemed cheerful, especially with me. She spoiled me often, making my favorite dishes. I still remember her voice. Her accent made her English sound slightly American. "What you want for your dinner?" she would ask, rolling her R sounds in your and dinner. "Today, I make you something special for your dessert. From my hometown, made with taro, very sweet. I think you like, and I always did. Whatever she made was good. But even Puri seemed different these days. She was quieter and didn't smile as often. At times, she even looked troubled. "Is something wrong?" I asked her once. She only smiled and said, "Oh no, just a headache. Make me feel not so good. Is okay. I make you some special spaghetti or maybe pizza. I make special one for you." But later that same day, when I came downstairs, she was on the phone with her Indonesian friend Henny, who worked in a house nearby. Now the boy, he also sees something wrong. I don't know what to do. What you think? There was silence as her friend replied. Then Puri continued, "Oh no, cannot, is bad for him. But madam, she cry every day. And master, he come home so late, then I hear them fighting." Suddenly, she noticed me standing there. "Oh, I must go now. Talk later," she whispered, quickly hanging up. Then she gave me an awkward smile. "Okay, now I go make something nice for you. Something special," she said, and hurried into the kitchen. As the weeks passed, I began to notice how silent the house had become. There were no more gatherings, and Uncle Krish and Auntie Vina no longer visited us. We also stopped going out together on weekends like we used to. Sometimes Dad was away the whole day on Saturday or Sunday. Other times he stayed in his study with the door shut. I felt uneasy and puzzled by all of this, so one day I decided to ask Mum. It was not easy for me, because I had always been closer to Dad, but now she was the only one I could turn to. "Mum, why don't we go out somewhere on Saturdays like before? I don't like staying at home all the time." "You'd better ask your father," she said sharply. I think it was the first time she had ever spoken to me in that tone. She made me feel as though I had done something wrong, just by asking. "But why not?" "I told you, ask your father. It has nothing to do with me." "Well, can't we invite Auntie Vina and Uncle Krish over? We never see them anymore. They haven't come in so long. We never do anything fun." The way she looked at me stopped me from speaking again. Her eyes flashed with anger, and her whole body shook. "Fun? Did you say fun? Don't talk to me about fun. Ask your father about that too." She almost spat the words at me. "And get that dog out of here. He's always in my way." I felt so unhappy that I went straight to my room. When I came down later for dinner, Mum had already gone into my parents' bedroom. A few nights later, I heard Dad's car pulling into the driveway. The car door slammed shut, and the front door opened. Then I heard Mum's voice. She wasn't shouting, maybe because she didn't want to wake me, but her whisper was sharp and fierce, like the hiss of a snake. I went to my bedroom door to listen more clearly. "How can you come home so late? Don't think I don't know where you've been. Again." "Why don't you just be quiet and go to bed?" Dad replied. His voice was cold and harsh. I had never heard my parents talk to each other like that before. They used to speak kindly, always calling each other abang or sayang, Malay words meaning beloved or darling. But as I listened, I realized I hadn't heard those words for a long time. "I won't put up with this any more. You had better decide what you want," Mum hissed. "Don't push me," Dad shouted back, full of anger. "Who do you think you are? I provide for both of you. You have this house, your car, money, everything. What more do you want? Be grateful." I heard them coming upstairs, so I quickly went back to bed. They kept arguing in their room. Then came a loud thud and the sound of a slap. After that, silence. I couldn't sleep until almost morning, when it was time to get ready for school. Dad had already gone. When Mum came down to see me off, I noticed her eye was swollen and a red mark was across her cheek. I didn't ask her anything. There was no need. The next Saturday, Mum had to travel to Malacca, to visit her old Aunt Mei Ling, who was ill in hospital. Dad said he would be working, and it was Puri's weekend off. Mum had arranged for me to spend the night at my friend Cartoon's house, but it didn't happen that way. I had a small quarrel with Cartoon and decided not to stay over. Around 10 o'clock that night, I took a taxi back home. Dad's car was in the driveway, but the house was dark except for a light on the terrace. I used my keys to unlock the door and went inside. For some reason, I didn't turn on the lights in the lounge. The terrace light gave me enough to see, and as I went upstairs, my eyes adjusted to the darkness. When I was heading towards my room, I suddenly noticed voices, a man's and a woman's, coming from my parents' bedroom at the end of the hall. For a moment, I thought maybe Mum had come back early from Malacca. But these voices were not normal. They were wild, uncontrolled, filled with cries and strange laughter that rose and fell in waves of excitement, along with words I understood in theory, but had never heard spoken in that way before. I moved quietly to the bedroom door. It was half open. I couldn't stop myself. I glanced inside. In the faint light, I saw the shapes of two bodies moving on the bed. Those figures are still in my mind, and I can still hear their voices and their cries. They were so caught up in each other that they didn't notice me. But what I saw that night will never leave me. The woman's voice was not my mother's, it was Auntie Vina's. From that moment, everything collapsed. Chapter 4. The Empty House. I don't know how I survived that night. All I can recall is going back to my room and locking the door. My mind was frozen. I was in deep shock. I couldn't think at all. Every time I shut my eyes, I saw the image of those two bodies on the bed. It was like a film, playing the same scene again and again. I must have slept eventually, because when I woke up, Dad's car was gone. I spent the whole Sunday morning alone in the house. I felt confused, sickened, and upset all at once. I thought about eating something, but when I opened the fridge, the smell made me feel worse. I couldn't even think of going to the park to see my friends. What could I possibly tell them? Poor Raj kept running around me, whining and following wherever I went. He couldn't understand what was wrong. I switched on the television and sat staring at it without really watching. Raj jumped onto the sofa and rested his head on my knee. That's where I still was, when Puri came back at 5 o'clock. "You all alone?" she asked. I nodded. "Your dad gone out or what?" I nodded again. "Never mind. Your mum will be back soon. I make you something to eat, okay?" "No thanks, Puri," I muttered. I tried not to cry, but suddenly the tears were streaming down my face, and my shoulders shook. "What's wrong, Chee Seng? Something happen?" How could I answer that? I was too ashamed to tell her. "Come on, it's not so bad," she said, wrapping me in a hug. I felt comforted in her warm arms. She had 3 children of her own back in the Philippines, so maybe she felt like a mother to me as well. She told me to wash my face, then sat me at the kitchen table while she prepared sliced mango with sticky rice, my favorite. Slowly, I began to feel a little better. Everything shifted again when Mum came home at 8. She burst through the door like a storm. "Where's your father?" she demanded angrily. She didn't even greet me. I stayed silent. "I asked you a question," she screamed. "Don't you dare look at me like that." "I don't know," I whispered. I was sure she meant her anger for Dad, but it fell on me instead. "What do you mean you don't know?" she continued. "You've been here, haven't you?" She didn't wait for me to reply, but rushed upstairs to their room. I followed quietly and stood outside the open door. She was at the window. The bed was still unmade, sheets in a mess. The wardrobe and drawers were open, clothes scattered over chairs and on the floor. Dad's suits were gone from the wardrobe, and his laptop was missing from its usual place. An empty suitcase lay open in the corner. So it's true. He's gone, she said to herself. My God, he's gone. She began to cry. I wanted to hold her, but something told me not to go inside. You coward, she screamed. After all I've done for you, I can't believe it. Running off with that filthy woman. And not even brave enough to tell me face to face, just leaving a message on my phone. She collapsed into a chair, holding her head in her hands, sobbing without control. What am I going to do? I gathered all my courage and went into the room. I tried to hold her, but she pushed me away with anger. Stay away from me. Don't you dare come in here. Get out of my sight. Now. Right now. Do you hear me? I had never seen Mum like that before, and I ran out of the room trembling. I was suddenly afraid of this furious stranger, like a wild animal in my own house, no longer the mother I knew. It felt as if she was blaming me. I couldn't take it. I ran to my room and locked the door. A few minutes later, I heard her on the phone. Her voice was weak and tired. Chee Seng, can I see you? I need to talk. There was a pause. No, I mean now. I know it's late, but it's important. Another pause. I can't explain on the phone. I'm sorry. Her voice started to tremble, and I guessed she was crying again. I'm really desperate, Chee Seng. Please come. Another pause. Thank you so much. I don't know what I'd do without you. I'll see you soon. Then she hung up. Not long after, I heard Auntie Chee Seng's car arrive in the driveway. I called her Auntie, though she wasn't really my aunt. She was somehow related to us by marriage, but I was never sure exactly how. I think her sister had married one of Mum's cousins. Auntie Chee Seng, like Mum, was a parental, and she was very proud of that. I never knew her exact age, but she always dressed neatly in her kabaya blouse and carefully tied sarong. Her grey hair was always fastened neatly at the back. She was small, but full of lively energy, like a quick little bird. I liked her very much. She was the kind of adult who always listened to me, always took my words seriously, and always gave kind encouragement. I didn't dare go downstairs after the way Mum had shouted at me, but I wanted to know what she and Chee Seng were talking about. I opened my door quietly and crept to the top of the stairs. I couldn't hear everything, but I caught parts of their talk. So when did this all begin? That was Auntie Chee Seng. I couldn't catch Mum's reply. Do you think he'll return? She asked. I don't want him back. That was Mum's voice for sure. But how will you manage? Again, I missed what Mum said. There's no reason to blame yourself, my dear. These things happen. It's not your fault. But what about Chee Seng? I missed Mum's reply once more. I'll do whatever I can to help you, Wei Fong. It sounded odd to hear her use Mum's Chinese name. To me, she was always Mum. Dad usually called her Sayang, and most others called her by her English name, Linda. Their voices continued, rising and falling, but it became harder and harder for me to follow. I must have been exhausted from all that had happened, because somehow I fell asleep, leaning against the wall at the top of the stairs. I don't know what time it was when I felt someone holding me close, gently stroking my hair. I heard Mum's voice, this time soft and gentle. It's okay, Chee Seng. It will be all right. I promise. We're going to be all right. Chapter 5. Shadows of Temptation. I must have slept deeply, because I woke up feeling rested and ready to face the day again. Mum's words had given me some new hope. I knew it would be a hard day since I had to go to school and pretend everything was normal, but nothing was normal at all. Somehow, I made it through the day. At school, I usually spent the breaks with Dev, Faisal, and Cartoon. But that day, I avoided them. I knew they would ask the usual questions about what I had done over the weekend and things like that. How could I answer them? So I stayed away from them and found a quiet spot in the library where nobody would disturb me. When school was over, I was surprised to see Mum's car waiting outside. She had come to take me home. That was unusual. Normally I went back on the school bus. On the way home, she even stopped at the ice cream shop. That was something else she never usually did. And when we reached home, she insisted on cooking my supper herself. Puri gave me a strange look, but said nothing. After supper, Mum came into my room and checked through my schoolwork. That had always been Dad's role. I felt a bit embarrassed by all her attention, but I didn't say anything. I guessed she was trying to cheer me up and make things feel normal. But really, it made me feel worse. Things were not normal. Dad was gone, and I couldn't understand why he chose Auntie Veena instead of Mum. He had left her, but he had also left me. That was the hardest part. He had turned his back on me, and I felt sad and unwanted. I went to bed early, but I couldn't sleep. Each time I closed my eyes, my mind replayed the terrible scene in the bedroom. I tossed from side to side. My body was exhausted, but my mind refused to rest. At last I fell asleep, but it was troubled. I had many nightmares. In one, I was sitting on the sofa watching television, with Raj lying beside me. Suddenly, he leapt on me. His eyes burned like fire, and he bared his teeth with a terrifying growl. Then his face changed into my father's. My father, in the shape of a dog, was tearing at my throat. I couldn't breathe. I panicked and woke up drenched in sweat. I slept again, but it was uneasy. This time, Auntie Veena appeared, dressed in a long white gown. She looked so beautiful. She smiled and reached out her arms to me. But then I saw a huge black snake sliding out from under her dress. It was poisonous. I ran, but the snake kept coming closer and closer until I woke up again, trembling and soaked with sweat. I went down to the kitchen and took a tub of ice cream from the fridge. I ate until it was all gone. Then I went back to bed. I left the lamp on beside me, and somehow I fell asleep again. The days and weeks after Dad left are now only a blur in my memory. Life settled in some way, but never into a steady and dependable routine like before. Some days Mum was kind and caring. Other days she locked herself in her room or started shouting at me, and even at Puri for no clear reason. As for me, I acted as if I was living normally, but inside I felt sick and afraid most of the time. The nightmares grew worse, so did the sleepless nights. My eating became completely irregular. Some days I left Puri's meals untouched, or just picked at them, taking only a few bites. She never complained, but I knew it must have hurt her. Her food was always delicious, and she worked hard to cook my favorite dishes. But then, at other times, I stuffed myself with whatever I could find in the kitchen: crisps, peanuts, chocolate, ice cream, biscuits, leftovers, anything at all. Usually, I did this late at night when I couldn't sleep. People call it comfort eating, and although it made me feel better for a short while, the good feeling never lasted. Sometimes I felt sick afterwards. Other times I just felt disgusted with myself. Most mornings I skipped breakfast. It was hardly the best way to start the day. As I said, Mum's moods became more and more unpredictable, and so did her actions. Some days she would be waiting for me outside the school gate, which was embarrassing for me. What 16-year-old wants to be treated like a child in front of his friends? On other days, she would completely forget about me. When I got home, I usually turned on the television or played video games before touching my homework. Slowly, I spent more and more time doing that, and sometimes I didn't do my homework at all. One day, I came home and found Mum waiting for me. From her face, I knew something was wrong. "What's happening at school?" she asked sharply. "What do you mean?" I replied, pretending not to know, while trying to figure out what she was talking about. "I just spent half an hour on the phone with your class teacher. He says, your work is terrible. Your grades have dropped badly. You haven't been handing in homework. He even suggested you might have copied from another student. What's going on?" "Nothing," I muttered. "Trust old Mr. Chang to go behind my back and call her." "What do you mean, nothing? Last term you had straight A's. Now you're getting D's. When you even bother to do anything. That's not nothing. Your final exams are only months away. You can't afford to fail them. That would be nothing. And you would be nothing too. And a nobody. You're old enough to take responsibility now. Don't expect me to keep running after you. I have enough other things on my mind." I wanted to tell her I also had plenty of things to think about, but I knew she would explode if I said it. Why were we both pretending it had nothing to do with Dad? How could she expect me to focus when all I could think about was him and what he had done? I was trying to make sense of a world that had been turned upside down. I wished I could at least speak to him, but I knew she would go mad if I did. He had become a nobody, just like me. He wasn't supposed to exist at all. If only Mum knew the truth about school. Some days, after a night without sleep or full of bad dreams, I was so tired that I fell asleep in class. On other days, I just sat there daydreaming, while the teachers went on and on about physics, chemistry, or history. I don't know how I would have managed without Dev, Faisal, and Cartoon. It was easy to meet Dev after school because he lived just up the road. His father worked as an accountant in a large law firm in the city. I liked his dad. He was a big man who never seemed worried about anything, always laughing and making jokes. Dev's mum cooked the best samosas I had ever eaten. Dev was tall and skinny and told the funniest jokes, probably picked up from his dad. He was also a brilliant hockey player and even made the Selangor State junior team. Faisal lived nearby too. His mother was quite strict with him. Because he was Muslim, he had to be home for evening prayers, so sometimes he couldn't join us for games. He was really talented at art, especially drawing and painting. I loved the cartoons he made of our teachers. Sometimes we went to his house to do homework together, at least when I actually did any homework. His mother was a widow, and maybe that explained her strictness, but she was kind too. His house always felt warm and welcoming. Cartoon was very different. He was short and round, with thick glasses. His father was a very rich businessman in the construction industry, and their family lived in an expensive housing area in Mont Chiara. They had a beautiful apartment with a big terrace and access to the club facilities, the swimming pool, gym, and games room. But Cartoon's main passion was computers. He was a real expert, with the latest software, and excellent at maths, a maths champion. He often helped me with problems. It was like his brain worked as a computer. Give him a problem, and the solution came straight back. Sometimes I went to his place for sleepovers, but after Dad left us, Mum wouldn't let me out of her sight anymore. It's strange, really, how the four of us got along so well. We were so different from each other. Dev, tall, sporty, dark-skinned, and always joking. Faisal, quiet, serious, and deeply into art. Cartoon, short and chubby, with his round face and thick glasses, his mind like a calculator. And me, just an ordinary-looking Malaysian boy who liked writing poems, at least according to Miss Kumar, our English teacher. But we truly got on well. They gave me strong support in those first weeks after Dad left. In the end, I told them about it. I couldn't keep it inside any longer, and there was no one else I could talk to. It was about a month after Dad had left, and we were sitting on the school playing field after classes. I must have looked miserable, because Cartoon suddenly said, "Hey man, what's wrong with you? You look like you've lost a whole year's allowance. Cheer up." "There's something I need to tell you," I said without thinking. "Dad has run off with Mum's best friend, and I felt so unhappy I couldn't finish the sentence." There was a long, awkward silence. I guess they didn't know how to respond. Dev was the first to speak. He put his arm around my shoulder and gave me a quick hug. "Oh, man, I'm so sorry. I knew something wasn't right. You've been looking so bad. But what can we do? Is there anything we can do to help?" "Not really," I answered. I felt the tears rising inside me, but I forced myself not to cry. Faisal was very understanding. Maybe it was because he had lost his own father. "I know how it feels," Chee Seng. "When my dad passed away, I thought it was the end of the world. But it wasn't. Time makes it easier, even if you never forget. It's hard, but you'll get through it. Just hold on." Cartoon seemed uneasy. He kept taking off his glasses and cleaning them nervously. At last he said, "I guess every family has problems. My dad hasn't left, but he has 2 minor wives. I know Mum hates it, but we always pretend everything is fine. But I'm really sorry, Chee Seng, truly." "Come on, guys. Let's go back to my place," Dev said quickly. "Mum will make us some Punjabi snacks to cheer us up. I think we all need it. And remember, this stays between us, okay? No gossip at school, agreed?" After the issue with my grades, Mum always seemed to find something new to complain about. Many times it was, "Have you finished your homework? Don't forget what I told you." Other times she went after me about food. "What kind of junk are you eating now? Why don't you wait until Puri makes you a proper meal?" Or, "I told you not to drink so much cola. It's full of sugar. Have some orange juice instead, it's better for you." She often scolded me about not cleaning my room. "How many times must I tell you to pick your clothes up from the floor? You can't expect Puri to serve you hand and foot." But most of all, she never stopped complaining about Raj. Somehow all her anger seemed to fall on my poor dog. "Keep that dog off the sofa. His hairs are everywhere, and he makes the house smell." Or, "I don't want to see that dog on your bed again. He'll bring some awful disease into the house." And it went on like this, day after day, until I was sick of hearing her voice. Sometimes I thought she was losing her mind, especially when she gave me that strange look, her eyes rolling and her hands waving like tree branches in a storm. Things came to a crisis a few months after Dad had gone. I missed him more and more. He hadn't even called me, and there were so many things I wanted to ask. So many things I wanted him to explain. Even if it hurt, I needed to know. I kept having a dream that returned again and again. In it, I was standing on a street corner. Cars rushed past, none of them stopping for me. Then I saw Dad in a bright red sports car. He waved at me and slowed down. I thought he was going to stop, but as I ran toward him, he drove away. Then he slowed again. I tried to reach him, but once more he drove off. Suddenly, there were no other cars, only his. He looked back at me, waved, and sped away in a cloud of dust, just like in an American film. In the end, I felt so low that I knew I had to talk to him. I waited until I was alone in the house. Mum was at Auntie Eng's, and Puri had gone to the market. I used my mobile to call Dad's number. No answer. I tried his office line, but a secretary picked up. "Hello, can I help you?" "Could I speak to Mr. Yo?" Mr. Sammy Yo? I asked. He's in a meeting, she replied. Who's calling, please? This is his. Oh, never mind. I hung up. I wanted to talk to him, not to his secretary. I tried his mobile again. Still no answer. I gave up. Later, when Mum came home, we were having tea and snacks in the kitchen when my phone rang. Without thinking, I picked it up. Hello, Chee Seng. It's me, Dad. You called me. How are you? His voice sounded strained and unnatural. Can I call you back? I stammered awkwardly. Mum must have noticed at once that something was strange. Who's that? She demanded. Seeing my guilty face, she grabbed the phone from me. Dad was still speaking, but she shouted, Leave my son alone. He doesn't need you. Stay out of our lives. Then she switched off the phone, threw it on the table, and stormed out. Chapter 6. A Dangerous Dance. After the telephone incident, Mum became more watchful and suspicious of everything I did. Each day felt like a cat-and-mouse game. I would try to do things my way, and she would try to stop me. Why do you leave your computer on all the time? She asked one day. Why not? I answered without thinking. Don't talk back to me, she snapped. I'm the one paying the electricity bills. And I see you never switch off the lights either. You even leave the television on when you're in your own room. I can't stand all this waste. I mumbled an apology and started heading back to my room. Hey, I'm not finished with you yet. Her voice was sharp, and it seemed to get worse every day. It made me feel angry and defensive, and I found it harder and harder to hide it. When are you going to do your homework? She demanded. I'll do it when I'm ready, I replied. You'll do it when I say so, she shouted. No, I won't, I said. Stop telling me what to do all the time. I'm not a child anymore. Then stop acting like one. All you do is lie around watching television, and when you're not doing that, you're on your computer doing who knows what. What's wrong with that? I argued. You need some exercise, she complained. That was something new. She had never liked it when I went to the park with Dad, and she never exercised herself either. After that, I began taking long walks with Raj. Sometimes we met Dev and the other kids, kicked a football, or just sat around talking. Then I would take Raj with me through the narrow lorongs near our house. It gets dark around 6, sometimes suddenly. One moment the sun is out, and the next thick clouds cover the sky. I usually got home by 6, but one evening I stayed out past 7. Thunder rumbled, and flashes of lightning lit up the sky. The palm trees in the gardens bent in the wind, and I knew the rain would pour soon. By the time I got back, it was already dark. Mum was waiting at the door, arms crossed, and a deep frown on her face. What time do you call this? She shouted. Your supper's been ready for an hour, and you haven't even thought about your homework. I don't understand you, always running around the streets with that dog. I thought you said I needed more exercise, I answered, feeling the familiar anger building inside me. Don't answer me back, she yelled. Get inside now, eat your supper, and do your homework. That was how it went almost every day. Her always criticizing, and me becoming angrier and more rebellious. I hated the way she spoke about Raj. She should have known how much I loved that dog, but all she ever did was complain about him. It was almost a relief when Mum finally found a job. One evening, while I was upstairs, the phone rang. As usual, I tried to listen in when I heard her speaking to Auntie Swiyeng. That was how I discovered it. Yes, they called me this afternoon, Swiyeng. I got the job. Thank you for recommending me. There was a pause. No, I'm sure it really made the difference, she went on. Sorry, when do I start? Next Monday. They seem to be in a hurry. Another pause. What was that? Oh, the pay isn't very good at first, but they said they'll review it after a 1-month trial. It wasn't until later that evening that she told me about it herself. Chee Seng, I've decided to go back to work. The money your father gives us just isn't enough, so I'll be starting a job on Monday. That's great, Mum, I said, and I meant it. It would be good for her, and even better for me. At least it would give her something else to focus on instead of criticizing me every day. What kind of job is it? Oh, it's assistant to an advertising executive at Maha Projections, she explained. It sounds quite demanding, but I already know something about advertising. At least I did before I married your father and gave up my career to become a housewife. I thought it was best to change the subject, so I said, "Good luck, Mum. I'm sure you'll do really well." And I meant that too. She was an efficient woman, and I knew she would succeed. But secretly, I was glad I would be left more on my own, without her constantly criticizing me or Raj. But life never goes exactly the way you expect. I had imagined being home with Raj, with Puri cooking for me and looking after everything. Things changed the weekend after Mum started her job. I overheard her talking to Puri in the kitchen. "But how will we manage, Puri? You know I'm out all the time now. I need someone here to take care of the house. And Chee Seng needs someone to prepare his meals when I'm not around." "Madam, I tell you, not for long," Puri explained. "But my sister say my children have trouble. Like I tell you, my mother is sick, need medicine, maybe operation. She cannot care for kids now." "But can't your sister take care of it?" Mum asked. "She also got her problem, madam. Her husband run away with younger woman. You know how it is back home. I must go, madam. Maybe 2-3 weeks only. I beg you." "But how can I manage? I can't take time off now. I just started working," Mum replied. "Madam, maybe my friend can come sometimes?" "Your friend?" "Yes, madam. You know my friend Henny. She is Indonesian. Maybe she comes sometimes to help you." "I don't think that will work, Puri. I don't just need help sometimes. I need someone full-time to look after the house," Mum said. In the end, Mum had no choice but to let Puri go. I can still picture her now, a small figure holding one little bag, waving to us before getting into the taxi. Somehow, Mum managed to arrange a temporary maid from the agency. Her name was Esther, and she was Indonesian like Henny. But I didn't like her at all. Her cooking wasn't tasty like Puri's, and she was always on the phone to her friends. We hardly spoke, not like with Puri, but at least she left me alone. Since Mum was out more often, I spent extra time with Dev, Faisal, and Kar-Chun. Mum seemed to enjoy her new job, and her mood became a lot better. She was more relaxed. She even allowed me to stay overnight at Kar-Chun's place one Saturday, and she let Dev stay over at mine another night, even though he only lived a short walk away. Life seemed to be improving again. But of course, nothing lasts forever. Sometimes I think it's a good thing we cannot see the future. It would only make us sad. With Mum gone so often, I also spent more time with Raj. It was funny how we had connected from the very first day Dad gave him to me. Raj had beautiful dark eyes, full of feeling. People laugh when I say this, but I truly believe Raj understood what I was thinking before I even spoke. He would tilt his head and look at me as if to say, "Shall we play football now?" Or, "Are we going to see Dev?" Or, "Don't forget my supper." If only he could speak. He wasn't a large dog, and I had no idea what kind of breed he was. His fur was black, with white spots, or maybe white with black spots. It was hard to tell. But he was perfect for me. His coat was short and shiny because I brushed him every day. People on the street always admired how glossy he looked. Every afternoon when I came back from school, Raj and I went up to the park at the top of the road to meet Dev and the others. It became our routine after Dad left and Mum stayed late at work. But one day, none of my friends were there. I guessed they had gone to the big playing field across the highway, so I set off with Raj to find them. 5 o'clock was the worst time for traffic in Subang Jaya. The main road connected the federal highway with the road to the airport, and cars filled both lanes as people rushed home. On one side was our quiet suburb with leafy streets, and on the other was USJ, the newer area with bigger modern houses. That was where the playing field was. A narrow divider with bougainvillea bushes, purple and orange flowers ran between the lanes. I wondered how the plants survived the constant fumes from cars, lorries and motorbikes. There were traffic lights and footbridges, but many people chose to run across. When Raj and I reached the road, I decided not to risk it. We went to the nearest footbridge and crossed safely. As I had thought, Dev and the others were playing football there. Raj rushed ahead, barking and running around. He loved to steal the ball, and the kids didn't really mind. We played for about an hour, until it started getting dark. Then we headed back toward our own neighborhood. I don't know why, but instead of using the bridge again, I followed the others across the road. Dev went first. We waited for a break in the traffic and managed to cross the first lane. Soon, cars sped up again, leaving us stuck on the narrow middle divider. The traffic on the second lane stretched endlessly. Cars, taxis, bikes, trucks, all rushing by. We couldn't move forward, and we couldn't go back. I wished I had taken the bridge. I held on tightly to Raj's collar. Suddenly, a small gap appeared, and Dev sprinted across safely. He waved for us to follow. I hesitated, and then the chance was gone. Before I could stop him, Raj broke free from my hand and dashed after Dev. But he was too slow. A taxi hit him hard. His body bounced once on the road and then fell like a sack of clothes on the side. The traffic slowed, and I ran across to him. Blood ran from his mouth, and his once bright eyes were empty. He let out one final moan and died in my arms at the roadside. Chapter 7. Secrets Between Sisters. I know it was foolish, but somehow I blamed Dev for what happened to Raj. Why did he have to cross the road before us? If he hadn't waved us on, Raj might still be alive. I felt so angry. Of course I was just as guilty. Why didn't I take the footbridge? Why didn't I hold on to Raj tightly enough to stop him from running into the traffic? Part of me knew it was really my fault, but still I blamed Dev. He was heartbroken too, but it was too late. After that, I stopped seeing him. I couldn't bear to play football with the memory of Raj in my mind. Instead, I stayed home. The news about Dad leaving us spread eventually. It always does. People are drawn to the troubles of others like insects to a light. I don't mean they always enjoy hearing about them, but they are always curious. Bad news spreads quickly, like a bad smell. Someone notices it in one corner, and soon the whole world seems to know. It didn't take long for everyone in the neighborhood to find out. You didn't have to be Sherlock Holmes to see that Dad's car was gone and that he never appeared any more. And of course, the maid's gossip made sure it spread everywhere. It wasn't that Puri had betrayed us. How could we hide something so obvious anyway? But maids like to chat about their employers. So Puri told Henny, and Henny told Risti, and Risti told someone else, until the whole neighborhood knew. At school, though, I thought the secret was safe. My school was far away, and only my closest friends knew about my family problems. But somehow the news reached school too. I couldn't figure out how. I couldn't believe that Dev, Faisal or Khartoum would reveal my secret, but who else could it be? One day I noticed them whispering together and glancing at me nervously. It was clear they were talking about me. Maybe I imagined it, but I thought I also caught some of the other students giving me strange looks. Some seemed to pity me, while others looked as if they felt superior. I hated both. I didn't want anyone's pity, and I certainly didn't want to be looked down on. I began avoiding my friends. In my mind, I was sure they had spread the story. I no longer trusted them. More and more, I felt completely alone. It wasn't a good feeling, but in some strange way, I almost enjoyed the self-pity, as if being isolated gave me a kind of heroism. It was me against the world. Dad, Mum, my friends, my teachers, everyone. And on top of it all, Puri was gone, and Raj was gone. I was left in my misery with no one beside me. It was a pitiful way of thinking, but at the time it felt true and justified. At first, no one said anything directly. Only their looks told me they knew. Then one day, something happened that changed everything. It was during the monsoon season, one of those days when heavy purple clouds built up like mangosteens, and suddenly the sky opened, pouring rain like someone had emptied a lake above us. School had just ended, but old Mr. Chang, our class teacher, had kept me back for some reason. By the time I came out, the school bus had already gone. I had no money for a taxi, and in weather like that, taxis were impossible to find anyway. I was stuck in the downpour. I stood in the school doorway, lost and hopeless. Mum was at work, so I couldn't call her to fetch me. Just when I was about to give up, Ting walked through the doorway and spoke. "Need a ride? My dad's driver will be here soon. I can drop you home if you want." It really was a stroke of luck, and completely unexpected. I knew Ting a little since he was in my class, but I had never been close to him. In fact, many students kept their distance from him. He came from a very wealthy family. His father owned factories and hotels, and they lived in the expensive suburb of UK Heights. Most of us didn't like him much, or his friend Chee Lick. There were always rumours about them, trouble with girls, drinking, and things like that. But still, it was kind of him to offer me a lift home, so I accepted. There wasn't much else I could do in the situation. It was far better to ride in a car with him than to stand in the rain. "That would be great," I said. "But I don't think it's on your way. I live in Subang Jaya. Don't worry about it. I'm not in a hurry, and the driver goes wherever I tell him anyway. Here he is now. Let's go." A shiny white car pulled up outside. The driver, wearing a uniform with cap and gloves, stepped out and opened the back door for us. I climbed in without a second thought. "Just give him your address and relax," said Ting. I had to admit I was impressed by the confident way he spoke to the driver, whose name was Bala. The traffic was heavy, and it took time to get through it. Bala drove skillfully, but even he couldn't do miracles. The rain was still pouring down. We moved slowly, stopping and starting, overtaking trucks and buses, taking small roads whenever the jam was too bad. "Sorry to hear about your dad," Ting said. "That's rough." Clearly he already knew, and I felt a flash of anger. But then I realized it wasn't his fault. Everyone else knew, so why wouldn't he? "Thanks," I answered stiffly. "It's okay now. We're managing." "Maybe life isn't as much fun, though. I mean, what do you do in your free time?" he asked. I'd never really thought about free time like that. For me, time was just time. I went to school, hung out with my friends, at least until recently, stayed home, watched television, and played video games. "I don't have much free time," I said, "with schoolwork, my mum, and everything else." It sounded weak, but it was the truth. "How about parties? Don't you ever go to parties?" he asked. "Of course," I lied. I hadn't been to many teenage parties, and I was sure they weren't the kind of parties he meant. "I mean real parties," he said. Going out, hitting a disco, then going back to someone's house, going wild all night. Don't you ever go to that kind of party? Well, sometimes, I said uncertainly, but not often. I knew it sounded lame, but I couldn't think of anything else. Man, you need to live. I mean, really live. Do you have a girlfriend? No, not really. It's never happened. I stammered. Wow, that's not cool. You need a girlfriend if you want to have real fun. You know what I mean? He grinned at me knowingly. I mean real fun, okay? Yes, well, I don't know how. I don't really like anyone that much. You don't have to marry them. Just enjoy yourself. How about Jessica? She's really special. I think she likes you. That's what Wendy told me anyway. She thinks you look romantic. Jessica was in our class. She was very pretty, but I had never imagined she would notice me. It felt strange to think that maybe, just maybe, she might see me that way. Could I really have a chance? I didn't want to ask Ka Ting more about her. I was already uncomfortable with the way the conversation was going. He kept dropping hints about girls, drinking and getting high. I was relieved when we finally reached my house. Thanks a lot, Ka Ting. See you tomorrow. Okay, he said. And don't forget, we need to set a party date soon. How about next Saturday? Yeah, maybe. I'll check, I said vaguely, as the car drove off into the rain. I saw Auntie Chee Seng's car in our driveway as I ran into the house. She was sitting in the lounge, with a large glass of beer in front of her. Hello, Chee Seng. She turned to me with a cheerful smile. Your mum called to say she'll be home late tonight. There's some special event at work, and she asked me to come over until she returns. I hope that's all right. She must have noticed me staring at the beer. Oh, sorry, she added. I was really hot, and your mum told me to help myself, so I did. There's nothing like a cold beer when you're really thirsty. I smiled. There was something slightly strange about this proper little old lady with a big mug of beer. Maybe she guessed what I was thinking, because she said, You can't always worry about what people think of you, you know. I'm old enough now to do what I like, when I like, and not care what anyone says. Anyway, how are you, Chee Seng? I hope things are a bit better now. I didn't know how to reply. Why would things be better? Dad was gone. Raj was dead. Mum was still acting half crazy at times. My school friends had turned against me, and Puri wasn't there to take care of me anymore. Better? Again? It was as if she could read my thoughts. Listen, Chee Seng, she said gently. It may not feel like things are improving. I know you're still sad about your dad, and I heard about your dog, Raj. That was such a terrible thing. I felt so sorry he was a lovely dog, and I know your mum can be tough on you sometimes, but try to understand her as well. She's facing a very hard time herself. She loves you deeply, you know. Never forget that. I don't know exactly what the future will bring, but I have a good feeling about you and your mum. You'll be all right. And remember, I'm here too, if you ever need me, any time. Now, let's have something to eat, shall we? I brought some Assam laksa for the maid to heat up for us. I hope she at least knows how to cook noodles. Chapter 8. The Party That Changed Everything. The next day at school, during the break, I noticed Ka Ting and his friend Chi Lik talking excitedly to Jessica and Wendy. It was clear, from the way Wendy looked at him, that she was Ka Ting's girlfriend. Jessica, though, kept glancing in my direction. Could it really be possible that she liked me? Looking back now, I realize how innocent I was for my age. All the books about teenage boys say their minds are full of sex, but honestly, I didn't think about it that much. Well, maybe sometimes, but not linked to anyone real. It was just imagination. Of course, when boys were together, we talked about it a lot, but I think most of it was just talk. It was more about trying to impress each other, showing how adult you were, how much you knew, or how far you had gone with a girlfriend, that sort of thing. I knew the facts, how babies were made and so on, but it all felt vague and distant. Naturally, I had wondered what it would be like when the time came, but nothing clear. Things had started to change, though. First, I had seen Dad with Vina, which had shaken me deeply. And now, I had to admit, Jessica felt special to me, and maybe. She was tall, like me, but the things that stood out most were her hair, her figure, and her eyes. Her hair was jet black, and reached almost to her waist. Her eyes were the classic Chinese kind that lit up when she smiled. And now she was smiling at me. On the way out of school that afternoon, she stopped me and gave me that dazzling smile. I felt as if time itself had stopped. "Wendy says you might come on Saturday," she said. "I hope you can. We're all going to pop in for the disco and then back to my place. It's my 17th birthday. Please come. I'd really love it if you did." She smiled again and walked away. I couldn't take my eyes off her. Somehow, I convinced Mum to let me go to the party. "But I want you home by midnight," she warned, "and I want to know exactly where you're going. Make sure you give me their phone number. I don't want you running around the city late on a Saturday night. Do you hear me?" Pop-In was in Bangzar, on a street full of cafes, bars and discos. Bangzar is one of the busiest nightlife areas in Kuala Lumpur. It's always full of people, especially after dark. Many foreigners go there too, so the crowd is always mixed. We had arranged to meet outside Pop-In at 8:30, but I arrived early. I felt nervous and excited. I was looking into a shop window when I felt a hand on my arm. It was Jessica. "You're early," she said. "That's nice. Let's get a coffee before the others come." We found a table in a small coffee shop nearby and sat with our drinks. I think she was just as nervous as me, though she didn't show it. "So, how does it feel to be 17? I asked. "I'll tell you later," she said. "I was born at 2 in the morning. Ask me again then." I didn't dare tell her that Mum wanted me home by midnight. "Oh, I got you a card and a little gift." I gave her the card and the small box with the thin silver chain I had bought the day before in Pasar, the old covered market in Chinatown. "It's beautiful," Jessica said. "Can you put it on me? I want to wear it right away." She bent her head, and I clumsily fastened the chain around her neck. My hands were shaking, and I caught the smell of her perfume as she shook back her long hair. "There, how do I look?" she asked. "Like a princess," I answered. It sounded silly, but I truly thought she looked amazing. "Do you really think so? That's sweet of you. Oh, look, the others are here," she said. "Let's go." There were 6 of us all together. Ka Ting with Wendy, Chee Lick with his girlfriend Ruby, and Jessica and me. I noticed the sign outside Pop-In that read, "No entry under 18, but somehow Ka Ting managed to get us all inside. The place shook with the pounding music. Bright lights flashed on and off, and we were already in the mood for a party when we found a corner table. Ka Ting ordered drinks from the waitress. I didn't know what they were, but they tasted sweet with a strange aftertaste. "Let's dance," Jessica said. And of course, I couldn't say no, even though I had never been to a disco before. It didn't seem to matter anyway. The floor was so crowded that nobody cared how you moved. Everyone was shaking their hips, swinging their shoulders and waving their hands. Jessica looked stunning in her tight t-shirt and short skirt. We danced for ages before returning to our table. The others stayed on the floor. Out of breath, Jessica leaned close to my ear. "Isn't this great? I've wanted to dance with you for such a long time." Then, She kissed me. A kiss unlike any I had ever known. My whole body seemed to catch fire. I kissed her back, holding her tightly. Things I had only ever dreamed of before. "Hey, what's this then?" Ka-Ting and the others came back at exactly the wrong moment. I felt embarrassed and a bit annoyed. "Don't worry, you two. We've got the whole night," Ka-Ting joked. Suddenly, reality hit me again. I had promised to be home by midnight. But Jessica clearly had other plans for us. I looked at my mobile. It was already 10:30. There was one missed call. Mum was already checking on me, even though there was still plenty of time before midnight. She was acting like a mother hen guarding her chick. Understandable, but so annoying. What could I do? If I called her back, she would demand I come home straight away. If I pretended I hadn't seen the call, she would never believe it. Maybe there was another way. Perhaps when we reached Jessica's house, I could ask her mum to phone home for me. Meanwhile, Ka-Ting was busy ordering more drinks, showing off as usual. The disco was now completely crowded, the music so loud I could feel the beat thumping inside me like a giant drum. "Here, have another drink," said Ka-Ting, "and try one of these. They'll give you more energy." He passed around some small white tablets. Everyone else swallowed theirs without a second thought, so I did the same. I didn't want to look awkward in front of these cool new friends. Jessica squeezed my hand. "Come on, let's dance again." How could I say no? This time the DJ played a slow song. I held Jessica in my arms, feeling her close against me as we moved to the music. It was like being in a dream. She leaned close and whispered, "I feel so happy with you." "Me too," I whispered back. We danced for what felt like hours before returning to the table. Soon, I began to feel amazing. The lights seemed brighter. The music sounded better. I felt lightheaded, but everything around me seemed perfect. With Jessica holding my hand, I felt like a king. The whole world sparkled like a colorful dream. I believed I could do anything and succeed. It was like being in paradise. The next clear memory I had was climbing into Ka-Ting's shiny white car. It was a squeeze with all 6 of us. But I didn't complain when Jessica sat on my knees. My memory of the ride was just a blur of flashing streetlights and Jessica's kisses. I felt like I was floating as we got out in front of a large house in Ampang. "Here we are," she said. "Welcome to my home." We all went inside. I had never been in such a big house before. Not even Ka-Chun's place compared. It was truly impressive. But then I felt a wave of panic. The time! It was already 12:30. Mum would be furious. While I was wondering what to do, Jessica pulled me towards a young woman who looked very much like her. She couldn't be her mother. She was far too young. "This is my sister, Jane," Jessica said. "She's in charge while our parents are away. They've gone to Penang for the weekend. They aren't home much." "Hi," said Jane with a friendly smile. "You must be Chee Seng, right? A lady called a little while ago. She sounded rather worried about you. I told her you'd be here soon and not to worry. Maybe you should call her." I stepped into a side room and dialed my home number, but it wasn't Mum who answered. For a second I was confused. Then I realized it was Auntie Swee Eng's voice. "Hello, Chee Seng," she said. "I've been worried about you. Your mum said you should be home by midnight." "But where's Mum?" I asked, suddenly uneasy. "Why isn't she there? Has something happened?" My head was still dizzy from all the excitement, but now I felt a cold shiver down my back. "Nothing for you to worry about," replied Auntie Swee Eng in a calm voice. "She had to leave for Melaka suddenly. Your Aunt Mei Ling is in hospital again. Your mum will be back tomorrow evening. She asked me to look after things. Lucky you." I could almost see her smiling. Now, I know you're meant to be home, but let me speak to that nice lady again, all right?" I called Jane back into the room and gave her the phone. She motioned for me to step out. As I left, I heard her saying, "Oh, hello again? No problem. Everything's fine. They're just enjoying themselves. It's Jessica's birthday, so. Yes, of course. We'll see that he gets back safely. There's lots of room here." A few minutes later she returned and passed the phone back to me. "It's fine," she whispered. "Hello? Chee Seng?" It was Auntie Seng again. "Now listen carefully. Your mother would probably kill me if she knew, but that lady sounds trustworthy. And I know you're having a good time, so you can stay. You're only young once. They'll send you back in the car tomorrow morning. But don't come back too late. Your mum will check with me for sure. So, enjoy yourself. I'm off to bed. Good night." Was I dreaming? My problem had been solved as if by magic, and the night was still ahead. I drifted back to the others, my head spinning, and my feet hardly touching the floor. Jessica's sister Jane had gone, leaving us on our own. "Okay, guys, let's party," said Ka-Ting. Jessica put some music on and turned down the lights. "Snacks and drinks are in the kitchen if anyone wants them," she added. Soon we were all dancing again, around the room and out on the terrace by the swimming pool. After a while, Jessica caught my hand and whispered, "Come with me. I want to show you something." She led me upstairs and into a room. It was dark, but we didn't need light. She pulled me close, and we began kissing again. "This is my room," she murmured. "Let's get comfortable. Soon I'll be 17. I could hardly believe what was happening, but it felt wonderful, and I let Jessica guide me without thinking about where it might lead. Chapter 9. Pills and Promises. I woke with a heavy headache. My mouth felt as dry as the desert. I felt sick, as if I might throw up any moment. My eyes would not focus properly. Everything looked blurred and kept changing shape. I didn't know the room I was in. How had I got there? Jessica was nowhere to be seen. I was alone, though someone had folded my clothes neatly on a chair by the bed. A big glass of water stood there too. I drank it quickly, but the thirst didn't go away. I almost stumbled out of bed and dragged myself to the bathroom, my legs shaking like jelly. Somehow, I managed to shower, get dressed, and make my way downstairs to the kitchen. The clock showed 11. How long had I been asleep? I couldn't remember, because the end of the night was still a blur. Outside, the rain was falling hard. I felt relief when Jane appeared, cheerful and fresh. "Good morning," she said brightly. "I hope you enjoyed the party. Jessica has already gone for her tennis lesson. She asked me to give you this." She handed me a folded note. I opened it and read, "Dear Chee Seng, I hope you slept well. Last night was wonderful. You were wonderful too. I won't be back until later this afternoon. Jane will take care of you. Please call me when you get home. 012567891. That's my mobile. I have so much to tell you, I can't wait. See you tomorrow. Love, Jessica." I couldn't eat anything, so Jane drove me home in her red sports car. It reminded me of the one Dad drove in my dream. We didn't talk much, but I felt comfortable with her. She was another adult who didn't fuss, who treated me like a normal person like Auntie Seng did. Before dropping me at the house, she smiled and said, "I'm glad Jessica likes you so much. She needs a good friend. I hope you'll come again soon." At the door, Auntie Seng was waiting. She looked neat as always, her warm smile ready. "Here comes the party hero," she teased. "Have you had breakfast?" I shook my head. "I see. Not hungry, right? Well then, I think you'd better rest. You look as if you need it." I caught sight of myself in the mirror and saw she was right. I slept most of the afternoon in my room. My mind felt strange, as if caught in dreams. Pictures from the night before flashed again and again, mixed with other odd images. By 5 I woke, still feeling dazed. Auntie Chee Seng was waiting downstairs. Mum wasn't back yet. "So, you enjoyed yourself last night?" she asked. I nodded. "Good. Then I don't think we need to tell your mum the details. But remember, your Auntie Chee Seng won't always be there to cover for you. So, be careful." "Thanks," I said quietly, feeling uneasy. "I'll keep that in mind." "When I see you like this," she said, "it reminds me of when I was young. Maybe I'll tell you about it one day. By the way, a girl called for you. Her name was Jessica. She wanted to know if you were all right." At once I realized I had forgotten to phone Jessica. I hurried to my room and dialed her number on my mobile. But when she answered, my mind went blank. I didn't know what to say. "Hi, Jessica." "Hi, Chee Seng. Are you okay? Jane told me you didn't look too well when she dropped you off." I slept a bit. I feel better now. How about you?" "Oh, I'm fine," Jessica replied. "I was a bit tired this morning, but tennis helped." There was a pause, as though neither of us knew what to say next. "So, I'll see you tomorrow then," I said awkwardly. "Yes, of course. What about next weekend? Will you be free on Saturday? I think Ka Ting is planning something special." Another silence followed. "So what do you think, Chee Seng? You know, it was really nice being with you last night." Yes, it was good, Jessica. I'll try to get Mum's permission, but she can be difficult sometimes." I felt foolish saying this, like a little boy who still needed his mother's approval. My anger towards Mum started to rise again. "Oh, I see," Jessica said, sounding disappointed. "Well, let me know, okay? I'd better go now. I still have a few things to do before bed." Before I could even say goodbye, she had ended the call. She must have thought I was acting childish. I'd ruined everything with her. I was angry at myself. And at Mum. Why hadn't I told Jessica how amazing she was, how much I'd loved being with her, and how special that night had been? Instead, my mouth had turned stiff, and now I felt I had lost her. The next day at school, Jessica didn't try to talk to me or spend time with me. She acted distant and cool. I was sure I had lost her. She seemed too mature for a boy who still had to ask his mother before doing anything. At least Ka Ting stayed friendly. "Hey, Chee Seng, that was some party, right? And didn't I tell you Jessica likes you? Now you know for sure." He gave a big grin. "I'm having a party at my place next Saturday. You'll come, won't you?" "Don't worry. I'll make sure Jessica comes too. We'll have plenty of good stuff, like last time. It's going to be really cool. You can even sleep over, so you don't need to worry about the time." I thought about being with Jessica again, and then about the trouble I would face with Mum. "Sounds great," I said. "I'll let you know, okay?" "Sure," he replied, and went off to talk to his other friends. That week, I couldn't stop thinking about the party. How was I going to get away again? I was sure Mum would say no, but I had to see Jessica again, to show her she was wrong about me, to prove I really wanted to be with her. The word love kept running through my head, though I felt uneasy about it after what Dad had done to us. By Wednesday, I had made up my mind. I would ask Mum, and if she refused, I would go anyway. As I feared, the conversation wasn't easy. "Mum, I was wondering about Saturday," I started nervously. "Wondering what?" she asked sharply, as if she already guessed what I was about to say. "Well, one of my friends from school, Ka Ting, invited me to a party at his house on Saturday. He said, I can stay over, so you don't have to pick me up. You already went to a party last Saturday. You can't expect to go every weekend. What about your schoolwork? How will you manage if you're always out? And who is this Ka-ting? It's the first time you've ever mentioned him. What do we know about him or his family? How do I know what you're doing at these parties? But it's not fair, Mum, I argued. All the other kids get to go to parties. You're not all the other kids. You're my son. And I know what's best for you. If I say you're not going, then you're not going. That's final. I stormed into my room, furious at how unfair it all seemed. But now I was more determined than ever. I would go to the party, no matter what happened. The next day I finally managed to speak to Jessica alone, for the first time that week. Jessica, I'm coming on Saturday. I really want to see you again. I'm sorry about the other day. I was feeling a bit strange. I don't know why. That's all right. I'm glad you can come. She gave me the same warm smile as before, and my heart skipped a beat. How are you getting there? She asked. Jane will be driving me, so we could pick you up if you like. That would be great, I said. But maybe pick me up outside Holiday Stores, not at my house? Fine. Why not? Around 8:30? Perfect, I said. But inside, my mind was already racing, trying to work out how I could get out without Mum noticing. The rest of the week seemed to drag endlessly. I went through school, homework and meals like I was sleepwalking. All I could think about was how to slip away on Saturday. Friday night came, and then Saturday morning. The moment was nearly here. Once again, luck was with me. Mum got a call from one of her cousins visiting from the United States, inviting her to dinner. Before leaving, she gave me her usual warning. I want you to finish your homework and go to bed early. Don't forget. I'll be back by 10:30 at the latest. I wished she would stop treating me like a child, but I kept quiet. As soon as she left, I got ready for the party. I wanted Jessica to see me at my best. I oiled my hair, put on my tightest jeans, Italian shoes, and an open-neck shirt. Then I left a note for Mum saying not to worry and that I'd call her later. The maid was off duty. I walked up to Holiday Stores just before 8:30. Right on time, the sports car arrived, Jane driving with Jessica beside her. Jessica looked amazing again. Her long black hair flowing and a tight green dress hugging her figure. I climbed into the back seat, and off we went. This time Jane seemed more serious, and she and Jessica didn't talk much on the way to Ka-ting's. When we arrived, Jane turned to her sister. Don't forget what I told you. I'll pick you up soon after midnight. Call me. You know Mum wants you home tonight. No staying over, especially at Ka-ting's house. You know why. I'm trusting you with her, Chee Seng. Make sure she calls. Don't let me down. Anyway, have fun, both of you. For a moment she sounded like my own Mum, and I wondered what she meant about that Ka-ting. But I was too happy to be with Jessica to think more about it. The party was even better than the week before. Ka-ting's father was away again. In fact, he always seemed to be gone, leaving the house to him. And what a house it was! Even bigger than Jessica's, with a massive games room, a huge swimming pool surrounded by palm trees and flowers, and even a full gym. There were about 30 people there, some of them older than me. The party started on the terrace, with music, dancing, and drinks. Once again there were things I'd never tasted before, brightly coloured, sweet, with a strange aftertaste. Each one made me want another. I danced with Jessica, of course, and soon we were in a quiet corner, kissing like last time. It was magical. A long buffet table was filled with food, and we loaded our plates high, Malaysian style. As we sat eating, Ka-ting came over again. How's it going, you two? Having fun? Good. But now it's time for the real party. Here's something to give you an extra push." He slipped 2 of the small white pills into my hand. I remembered how amazing I had felt at the disco after taking them, but I also remembered how sick I had been the next day. I decided they weren't good for me, so I put them in my pocket. Jessica, though, must have taken hers. Soon she grew dreamy and soft as we danced to another slow song, just like before. She felt like warm honey melting in my arms. Time passed quickly, but then I suddenly recalled what Jane had told us. "Jessica, I think you should call Jane. Don't forget her warning. I don't want you getting into trouble. Oh, Chee Seng, I want to stay here with you. I'm sure Ka-Ting won't mind if we sleep over. Come on." I have to admit, I was tempted, but I stood firm and told her she must call Jane. Jessica clearly didn't want to, but at last she did. Jane said she would be there in half an hour. The moment she hung up, Jessica grabbed my hand and pulled me inside. We found a quiet spot to be alone for the short time we still had. When we were leaving, Ka-Ting pulled me aside and whispered, "Why go? We're just starting the real fun. Some of the older guys brought special stuff. You should stay and try it. It'll give you the best high ever. Don't worry, you can stay here till tomorrow. Let Jessica go if you want. There are plenty of other girls tonight. Later we'll all head to the pool together. How about it?" "Sorry, Ka-Ting, but I promised Jessica I'd go with her. Maybe another time." "That's right," Ka-Ting replied in a strange, hollow voice. "That's right, my friend. Anyway, take these for later. Maybe tomorrow, when you need a lift." He pressed a few more of the white pills into my hand. I slipped them into my pocket. "And remember, you can always come here. Drinks, stuff, and plenty of fun, right?" Jane dropped me at my gate, and I squeezed Jessica's hand as I got out. When I turned back, the car was already gone, leaving me alone to face Mum's full anger. My hands were sweaty and trembling, and I almost dropped the keys. Sure enough, there she was, waiting for me like a dragon ready to breathe fire. She looked as if she might explode. It was payback time. Chapter 10. Breaking Point. "Come here," Mum said in a voice as cold as ice. "If you can even walk straight." As I moved unsteadily towards her, I felt that something terrible was about to happen, something that would change us both forever. It was too late to stop it. Just as I reached her, she slapped me hard across the face. And I mean hard. My cheek burned, and I felt something wet. Her ring had cut my skin, and there was blood. "Let that teach you not to make a fool of me," she said, breathing heavily, her body trembling. I think she had shocked herself as much as me with her sudden violence. "We'll talk about this in the morning. Now get out of my sight. You make me sick. Sick, sick, sick. After all I've been through, all you can do is make it worse. You're selfish, stupid, and clearly have no feelings, at least not for me. Now get to your room before I lose my temper again." As I undressed and washed, my mind filled with things I wished I had said to her. Some of them would have hurt her as much as she hurt me. But it was too late. I tried to sleep, but my thoughts kept racing. About Jessica, about Mum, about Dad. My head spun with questions, but no answers. I felt confused, angry, and miserable. I slept late the next morning, maybe hoping Mum would be gone. But when I came down for breakfast, she was waiting. Fear settled in my stomach, that sinking feeling when you know something bad is coming. She followed me to the table, sat down, and poured herself coffee. Her face was tight, her eyes cold. "So what's going on then?" she asked in a hard voice. "Nothing," I muttered, trying to swallow some cereal. It tasted like cement. "Don't think I'm stupid," she continued. "I know you've been up to no good, so don't pretend. I told you not to go to that party, but you went anyway. You did exactly what I told you not to do. I want to know why. How could I explain? She would never understand how I felt about Jessica, or how exciting it was to be with new friends, the drinks, the music, the freedom, or how trapped I felt at home. I mumbled some kind of protest. I work hard at school all week, then I'm locked up here every night with homework. I'm not allowed this, I'm not allowed that. You never let me out of your sight. Why can't I go out at least once a week just to enjoy myself with my friends? It's not fair. Life isn't fair, she snapped. If it was, your father would still be here taking care of us, instead of running off with that woman. So, don't talk to me about fairness. Why do you always bring up Dad? I shot back. It's like you're blaming me for what happened. Don't you dare talk to me like that, she said sharply. He left me to raise you, and I will make sure you grow up properly. I don't care if you think it's fair or not. She stopped and gave me a hard look, her eyes shining dangerously. I pushed my cereal away, untouched. She began clearing the table with loud clatters. So, I'm telling you one last time. If I say you are not to do something, you don't do it. No more parties or outings until Puri comes back. That's in a couple of weeks. But I thought she was coming back this week, I said. She called last night. She can't return for another 2 weeks. Nothing I can do about it. Once she's back, she'll watch over you. Until then, no going out with your friends, and no allowance either. Do I make myself clear? I've got enough to deal with, without worrying about you every second. Now, I'm going to see Auntie Chee Seng. Do you want to come? No thanks, I said. I actually wanted to see Auntie Chee Seng, but not with Mum. Not now. In that case, get on with your homework. I'll check it when I get back tonight. There's food in the fridge for your lunch. Not long after Mum left, I got a text from Jessica. She must have tried calling while I was arguing with Mum. God de que veut imp can you call love oo J. I wondered what was so urgent, so I phoned her right away. Hi, Jessica. Oh, Chee Seng, thank goodness you called. I've been going crazy. Look, I need to see you. Something terrible is happening. I can't explain it on the phone. When can I see you? I thought quickly. I couldn't leave the house after what Mum had said. What could I do? I had to see Jessica. She sounded really upset. Why not ask her to come here? Mum wouldn't be back till evening, and the maid was off today. No one would know. Jessica, can you come to my place? I can't go out today. Maybe you can take a taxi. Give me a few minutes to figure it out. I'll call you back, okay? She phoned 10 minutes later to say she'd be there by noon. She didn't say much, but I could hear the stress in her voice. I knew something serious was wrong. It was almost 11, so I went to freshen up before she came. I'd never had a girl visit before, and I was nervous. At exactly 12, a red and white comfort taxi stopped outside the gate, and Jessica stepped out. When I opened the door, I saw she had been crying. Her eyes were swollen and red, and she looked exhausted. I hugged her gently and kissed her. Suddenly she broke down crying. I led her into the lounge and settled her on the sofa, then gave her some water. Slowly she calmed down, managed a weak smile, and wiped her tears. So, what's wrong? I asked. It's awful, Chee Seng. They're sending me away. Sending you where? To Australia. My dad's sister lives in Perth, and my parents have decided I should finish school and go to university there. But why? Why now? Don't ask me. I think it's because they're worried about me. I didn't tell you before because I was so happy with you, but I had a bad experience with a guy I met at Car Ting's months ago. He was married, and just using me. Please don't ask about it. I was stupid. I wanted to forget it, but my parents found out. They've never let me forget. Then Mum found some party pills in my room. She went crazy. That's when they started talking about Australia. I didn't believe them. But this morning they told me it's final. I have to go. They think if I stay here, I'll get into worse trouble. They want me out. But if you go to Australia, I began. Yes, I know. I'll never see you again, she said, and tears rolled down her face. I held her close and stroked her hair to calm her. When do they want you to leave? End of this term. Only 2 weeks away. What are we going to do? I feel like I'll die if I have to leave you. Can't you make them change their minds? I asked, though I knew the answer. I've tried. Believe me, I've tried. But their minds are made up. So, what do we do? I need to see you, Jessica. I can't live without you. I've never felt like this before, but it's the same for me, Chee Seng. That's why I had to see you. We must find a way out of this, somehow. Any way we can. We spent the next few hours together. We shared the food Mum had left in the fridge and talked about our feelings. We kept circling around the problem of her move to Australia, but we found no solution. At last, we went up to my room and lay down together. It was 5 o'clock when Jessica left. We agreed to meet after school the next day to see if either of us had thought of a plan. I tried to focus on my homework, but my mind was full of Jessica. Somehow, I finished before Mum came back for dinner. She skimmed through my homework without much interest, as if something was troubling her. She really did look worried. The next day at school, Chee pulled me aside during the break. "Hey man," he said, "you should have stayed on Saturday. It went really crazy. We all ended up swimming naked in the pool until sunrise. It was some party. Dad's off in China again next weekend, so I'm having another party on Saturday. It'll be even better this time. You'll come, right? And bring Jessica too." "Look, Chee," I answered. "I can't go anywhere for a couple of weeks. And besides, I've got no money. Mum cut off my allowance. I'm in serious trouble at home." "Don't worry," he laughed. "That's easy. I can lend you some here." He pushed 2 50-ringgit notes into my hand, more than I usually got in a whole week. "You can pay me back later. No problem. But I still can't get out on Saturday. I'm stuck at home. She's watching me like a hawk." "No worries. I'll throw another party after that. Just come whenever you can, okay?" As he said this, a thought began to grow in my mind. Maybe there really was a way out of our problem after all. Chapter 1: Escape Plan. I managed to talk to Jessica in a quiet corner of the library before we went home that day. "Jessica, I've got an idea. But first, I need to know one thing. Do you really want to be with me? Would you do anything to avoid going to Australia? I have to be sure because—" She reached out and touched her finger to my lips. "I'm sure. Don't ever ask me that again, okay? So listen to my idea and tell me if you think I'm completely crazy." Jessica held my hand. "I'd do anything to stay with you, crazy or not. I've been thinking about Chee," I began. "I think he could help us run away together." "Run away? But to where? They'd track us down and things would get worse. Tell me, Chee Seng, where could we go?" "Just listen. Here's the plan. We go to Chee's party, not this Saturday, but the one after. That's right before you're supposed to leave for Australia. You can say it's your farewell party. When everyone else goes home, we pretend to leave too, but then return. We stay at his place overnight, then catch a bus to Perlis. My uncle has a bungalow there. He hardly ever uses it, but I know where the Key Island. We can stay a few days, then cross into Thailand. It's easy. I've done it before with my parents. Once we're there, we can find work. With our English, getting jobs at a hotel or somewhere won't be difficult. No one will find us. But Chee Seng, we'll need to prepare. We don't have much time. I'll get the things I need ready. We'll also need money. Do you have a savings account? No, I don't. But I think I know where I can get some cash before we go. I'll get my things ready too. We'll have to travel light. Just backpacks, no big cases. And we'll have to plan how to leave home without being noticed, Jessica added. Both of us were already thinking through the details. But deep down, I wondered if our bold plan could really work. Maybe it was foolish, and we'd still need to talk to Ka Ting. Each day after that, Jessica and I found time to meet and discuss how our preparations were going. It brought us closer than ever. Even though I sometimes felt nervous, the secret plan filled me with excitement and made me feel more alive than I'd ever been before. At home, things stayed fairly calm. I tried to behave normally and do whatever Mum asked, hoping she'd be less suspicious and it would be easier to slip away when the moment came. She looked very tired and tense again. Maybe it was her work, but I thought it was better not to ask. Living with her was like walking on eggshells. One evening that week, she came home late while I was upstairs doing homework. When I went down, she was at the table with a glass of whiskey, reading a thick file of papers. A plate of potato crisps sat in front of her. She had her glasses on, looking exhausted and lost in her thoughts. She didn't even notice me standing there. After a while, Mum lifted her head. "Sit down for a minute, Chee Seng. I want to talk to you." I sat opposite her at the table. Seeing her closely, I noticed her eyes were red and her hands were shaking a little. She didn't look healthy. Maybe it was the whiskey Mum hardly ever drank. I wondered why she was drinking now. "Listen, Chee Seng. There's something I need to tell you." Her voice sounded weak and flat, and suddenly I felt a rush of love for her. For a moment I forgot how strict she had been with me. "I'm having some trouble at work," she went on. "I can't explain it all now, but things aren't going well. I don't know how much longer I can stay there. I just want you to know because, if I have to stop, we'll have difficulties paying for everything." I wasn't sure what to say, but she continued. "I also haven't been feeling well lately, and I can't sleep. Dr. Narasimhan gave me a lot of tablets to help me relax and sleep. He says it's probably stress. I hate taking them. They make me feel even worse." "I'm sorry, Mum," I said softly. "Is there anything I can do?" "No, not really. I just wanted you to know. I realize it's not easy for you either, but let's try to get along as best we can, all right?" "Okay, Mum," I agreed. "Oh, and one more thing. Auntie Chee Seng has asked you over for dinner on Saturday night. I have to go to Malacca again. Mei Ling is still in the hospital. I'll be back late, so it'll be good for you to have some company." I was glad to hear that. Jessica and I had promised to behave well until we carried out our plan to avoid suspicion. Besides, I hadn't seen Auntie Chee Seng for some time, and I always liked being with her. So that Saturday evening, Auntie Chee Seng came to pick me up and take me to her house. The moment I saw her, I felt better. She always had that effect on me. We sat on her terrace, sipping mango juice and enjoying the cool air of her garden. The jasmine was filling the night with its sweet smell. For a while, life felt peaceful. "I love this time of day," she said with a smile. "It feels like the world can breathe again after all the heat and dust. So, how are you, Chee Seng?" "More or less all right," I answered. "How's school? Or maybe I shouldn't ask that. Adults are always asking about school, as if nothing else matters. I hated that question myself when I was young. So what else is happening with you? You know I worry about you and your mother a lot. She's having a tough time. What do you think?" "I think you're right," I said. "She's got problems at work, and she told me she's taking a lot of medicine for stress, and because she can't sleep. I'm worried too. Oh, that explains it. She has looked unwell for a while. I'll talk to her. She probably needs another woman to talk with. As for her job, she mentioned some issues to me before. You know, Chee Seng, some of these companies are worse than a jungle. People will do anything to get promoted. I'm just glad I'm retired. The way she spoke made me realize she had probably been through something like what Mum was facing. Still, I was glad I had told her. If anyone could help Mum, it would be Swee Ing. We had a wonderful evening together. She had cooked tasty Assam laksa, followed by gula melaka for dessert. Then she put on some of her CDs, Mozart and Schumann. I normally never listen to that kind of music, but with her it felt natural and not like she was showing off. She truly loved classical music and showed me what it meant to enjoy it deeply. I even started to feel moved by it myself. Later, Auntie Swee Ing began telling me about her own life. She brought out old family photo albums filled with faded pictures of weddings, babies, and family gatherings from long ago. That's your great-grandfather and grandmother, she said, pointing to a man in a black jacket, white shirt with a high collar, and a black bow tie. He looked very serious as he stood behind his wife. She wore a traditional Peranakan outfit, small decorated shoes, a long sarong, and a kabaya. Her hair was tied back, and she wasn't smiling. It was strange to think that they had been real people with real lives and problems just like us. Looking at the photos, I began to see how I was part of a chain of roots, stretching far back. I wondered how my own grandchildren would think of me one day, when I was gone. Then she turned to a page with only one photo, of a very beautiful young woman. I suddenly realized with a shock that it was Auntie Swee Ing in her youth. "Is that you?" I asked, just to be sure. "Yes. Amazing what time can do, isn't it?" she said with a sigh, turning the page. The next picture showed a handsome Indian man in white shorts and an open shirt, standing among rows of rubber trees and smiling at the camera. In the following photo, the same man stood with Swee Ing. She wore a light cotton dress and looked up at him as they held hands. They both looked completely happy. "Who's that?" I asked. She didn't answer at once. Her eyes stayed fixed on the photo as if she were lost in it. "That's Ghana," she finally said quietly, still looking at the picture. "Where was this taken?" I asked, not wanting to push too much, though I was curious to know more about him and her. "That was on a rubber estate in Perak," she explained. "Ghana was the assistant manager. There was still a British manager then. It was just after independence." "How did you meet Ghana?" I asked. "Well, back then it wasn't easy to meet young men, especially with the kind of upbringing I had. You know Daddy, your great-uncle Lim, held a senior job in the Ministry of Agriculture. He was quite well off, though not like the new rich you see today. I was one of 6 children. Now it's just me and your Auntie Rosie left. We were raised very strictly. It was always study, study, study. We were expected to be top of the class. We went to church twice every Sunday. No parties, no dances, no alcohol. We were brought up to think our community was somehow better than others. We were told we were at the top of society and had to prove it by being the best at everything." "But when was that?" I asked. "Well, Daddy was doing very well before the war, the Second World War, until the Japanese invaded Malaya in 1941. That was the year I was born. Times were hard then. I don't know how my parents managed to raise 6 children. So, what about after the war? Well, Daddy got his job back, and we thought everything would return to how it was before, but it didn't. After some time, the independence movement began. We finally got independence in 1957. That was an exciting time. I was 16 then, preparing for my school-leaving exams. "Did you pass your exams?" I asked, thinking about my own poor results earlier in the year. "Oh yes, I got distinctions. The plan was for me to do my A-levels and then go to London to study law." "And did you?" "Did I what? Pass my A-levels? Yes. Go to London? Number. Something else happened. I went to Singapore instead." She looked again at the picture of herself with Gunner. "I see. It was a foolish thing to say." "Do you really?" she asked with a sad smile. "I doubt it. Anyway, after independence, things became harder for Daddy. They were giving more promotions to Malays in the civil service. Nothing wrong with that, but Daddy felt he couldn't stay. So he retired when I was in my last year of school. But not before I met Ghana. "How did you meet him?" I asked. She sighed. "Maybe that's a story for another time. Come on, I'll take you home." Chapter 12. Between Two Worlds. I felt a little uneasy about using Auntie Chee Seng, but going to her house the next Saturday gave me the perfect excuse to reach Ka Ting's later that evening. My plan was beginning to seem possible after all. I would spend some time at Auntie Chee Seng's, return home before Mum got back, pick up my things, and then meet Jessica at Ka Ting's place. On Monday, Jessica and I met to work out the details again. She had also figured out her own way. She would bring her backpack to school on Friday and leave it with Ka Ting so he could take it home for her. I spoke to him too and asked if we could stay the night after the party. "No problem," he said with a sly smile. "Stay as long as you want. But no one else must know, okay?" "Okay, cool," he agreed. I don't know how we managed to get through that week. I felt myself growing more nervous as each day passed and Saturday came closer. Jessica also seemed tense. We even argued a few times. Not serious, but both of us were jumpy. The smallest thing could spark a quarrel. At home, I tried hard to act as normal as possible. I kept up with my homework and made sure I was around when Mum came home, but she still looked sick and very tired. Her face was always strained, and her skin had a pale grey shade. She was still taking her medicine, but it didn't seem to help much. I worried about her, yet my thoughts kept going back to Jessica and our plan to escape together. I avoided talking about her work whenever we spoke, which wasn't often. Just when things seemed calmer, she complained about my schoolwork again, and we had another argument. That made me feel less guilty about leaving. On Wednesday night, Mum came home later than usual. I sat with her while she ate her dinner. A strange feeling came over me. Everything looked ordinary, yet I knew that in just 3 days I would leave her behind, and we would never sit together like this again. It was as if I were two people at once, one acting as the caring son, and the other the runaway who planned to desert her. And each side of me seemed to see the other, wondering how they could both live inside the same person. She asked about my day. "So, how did you do?" "Not bad," I answered. "I got an A for my English essay and a B+ for my maths project." "That's better," she said with a sad smile. "Oh, and by the way, Auntie Chee Seng called to remind you that you're having dinner with her on Saturday. That really helps me. I have to drive down to Malacca again to see Aunt Mei Ling. I won't be back until late, and Puri still won't return for another week." "No problem," I said, feeling relieved that everything was falling into place just as I had hoped. "Good. It's late now, Chee Seng. You'd better go to bed. I need to finish some papers for tomorrow. I've got an important meeting with the board. Sleep well. I'll check later to make sure you're asleep." As I lay in bed, the two Chee Sengs inside me struggled with each other. I had to fight hard to silence their voices before I could finally fall asleep. At school that Friday, Ting was bursting with excitement about the party planned for Saturday. "It'll be the best one yet. I've even arranged for a band to come. And this time, some of the older guys will be there. They're the ones who bring the really hot stuff. Plenty of fun for everyone." He laughed in a way that made me uneasy. I realized that I often didn't really understand what he meant when he spoke about hot stuff and fun, but I was fairly sure some of it wasn't legal. Still, the party itself wasn't what mattered most to me. What mattered was my plan to leave with Jessica. Everything else was just part of making that happen. I met Jessica in the library again before going home. "Is everything set for tomorrow?" I asked. "No problem. I gave my backpack to Ting, and he'll keep it for me. Jane will drive me over for my farewell party around 9. And I'll leave Chee Seng's a bit later, collect my things from home, and take a taxi to Ting's. I should arrive about 10:30. Don't forget your passport. I can't wait to see you tomorrow." "Me neither," she said, giving my hand a quick squeeze before leaving. Looking back now, the events that followed seemed to rush past in my memory, like a film where one picture flashes for a moment before being replaced by the next. Auntie Chee Seng picked me up at 7 on Saturday evening. We spent another pleasant evening together. She had prepared a special chicken curry with plenty of tasty side dishes, and she played more classical music, this time Haydn and Bach. I began to see how deeply music mattered to her. It wasn't just background noise, but part of her whole life. I wished I could learn to listen the way she did, with her whole being. One thing she said stayed with me. Music is such a comfort when you live alone. You never feel lonely if you have great music. I was still curious about the story she had begun telling me last time. "I've been thinking about Mr. Garner," I said. "How did you meet him?" It's strange how these things happen. I'm sure Daddy would have been horrified if he thought he was the cause, but in a way he was. "How do you mean?" "Well, before he retired, he made one last tour around the country, visiting different agricultural projects like rubber, oil palm, and sugar plantations. I was on holiday, so he took me with him to Perak in the north. We spent a day at the rubber estate, where Garner was the assistant manager. That was when I took the first photo you saw. The British manager was away in the UK, so it was Garner who showed us around and gave us lunch. As we were leaving, we looked at each other, and we both knew. We knew we loved each other. It may sound silly and childish, but I was only 18, not much older than you are now, and I knew I loved Garner. All I could think of was how to spend my life with him. Later, when we became lovers, he told me it had been the same for him. I wonder if you can understand that. Of course you can. Oh dear, where was I? So what happened next? I wrote to him, and he wrote back. No emails or text messages in those days. We had to be very careful. Things were very different then. For one thing, people didn't approve of marriages between different communities. Garner was Indian, and I was a Peranakan Nyonya. My father would never have allowed it. For another, people strongly disapproved of girls who were involved with married men. And yes, Garner was married. His parents had arranged it with a girl back in India, from Kerala, I think. It was a complete disaster. They didn't live together anymore, but legally they were still married. I didn't think it mattered much, but I knew it would cause a lot of trouble at home. So what happened then? I asked. The story was beginning to sound like a television drama, with new surprises at every turn. Well, that year there was a big celebration at the golf club, with a dance in the evening. I got a ticket for Garner. We spent the whole evening dancing and talking, and that same night I ran away with him. Can you imagine that? How foolish I was, but how happy too. I stayed with him on the plantation for a month. It was the happiest time of my life. Maybe the only time I've truly been happy. We planned to live together permanently, so I went down to Kuala Lumpur to buy things we needed. Ghana was supposed to come later. My father refused to let me come back home, so I stayed with my sister Rosie. She had just got married. We were very close. We still are. So, did Ghana ever come down to join you? I asked. Her face suddenly grew sad. I think we'd better leave that part for another time, she said. I thought I saw tears in her eyes, so I didn't push her further. We sat quietly for a few minutes. Then she noticed me glancing at my watch. Oh dear, 10 o'clock already. Time to take you home, young man. As we drove back, she suddenly asked, Are you all right? Oh, yes, I replied, though something in my voice must have sounded uncertain. Are you sure? You seem a bit nervous tonight. If anything is wrong, you can talk to me. I hope you know that. I don't want to push into your life, but... No, it's okay. I was just thinking about Mum, I muttered, hating myself for lying. Well, if you say everything is fine, then all right, she said. But don't forget, I'll always be here if you need to talk about anything. Anything at all. Now, here we are. Sleep well, and come see me again next week. Chapter 13. Night of Illusions. As soon as I got home that evening, I quickly packed the clothes and other things I had prepared into my backpack. I even put in my laptop, just in case. I looked around at the small things I had collected as a child, my shells, my coins, my Man U football posters. All of it I would be leaving behind. I picked up a kaleidoscope, which had been my favorite toy when I was about 8. I shook it and looked inside, watching the bright-colored shapes move. I shook it again and saw the patterns change. I couldn't help thinking that now my whole life was like that kaleidoscope, a set of patterns shifting every time something shook it. I went into Mum's room. I knew she kept cash in a drawer by her bed. The key was in a small pot on her desk. I unlocked the drawer quickly. Inside an envelope was 2,000 in 50 ringgit notes. I took 1,000, hoping she would not notice straight away. That should be enough for Jessica and me until we reached Thailand. My hands were shaking and my heart was beating fast like a drum. I was stealing, and I knew it. It didn't feel good, but it was too late to regret it now. I called comfort cabs, and soon I was on the highway to Karting's. It was just after 11. When we stopped outside his house, I saw many expensive cars in the driveway. The party was already loud and crowded. I found Karting, and he took me upstairs to the room Jessica and I would share later. Her backpack was already on a chair. I put my things in the corner and joined Karting by the window. From there, we could see the terrace and the swimming pool. Some people were standing near the bar, while others were eating. A few had already started dancing. My heart sank when I saw Jessica dancing very close with a man I didn't know. For the first time, I felt the sharp sting of jealousy. Karting pressed 3 pills into my hand. 1 white, 1 blue, 1 pink. That'll get you going, he laughed. Everyone's getting high already. Come on, join in. I hesitated. At the last party, I hadn't taken any pills, and I'd been fine. But the first time I tried them, I'd felt awful afterwards. I gave them back to him with a smile. I don't need these to have fun, I said, and neither do you. Okay, as you wish, he said, looking disappointed, but you don't know what you're missing. We went downstairs and out to the terrace. More people were dancing now, some moving wildly, with strange, empty looks on their faces. Then I saw Jessica again. She was still dancing with the same man. I looked at him carefully. He seemed about 30, much older than me. He was dressed in white from head to toe, even his shoes. His shirt was unbuttoned, showing a chest covered in thick hair. Heavy gold hung from his neck and fingers. a thick chain and large rings. A black moustache and styled hair completed his look. To me, he seemed like a gangster straight from a Bollywood movie, and I disliked him instantly. I waved to Jessica, and she quickly left the dance floor to join me. "What's happening?" I asked. "What do you mean?" she answered, but her eyes looked strange. "Who's that man? The one you were dancing with. You look like you knew him well." "Oh, don't be silly," she laughed. "That's just Suresh, someone I met at Karting's last year. He runs an import-export business in Klang. Come on, let's dance." I feel dreamy already. She pulled me onto the floor. As we danced, I noticed Suresh watching us closely. I didn't like the way his eyes followed us. Then he moved into a corner to talk with some older men. A few of the younger ones joined them, and I saw him handing out small packets. I also noticed money being passed back in return. When we sat down together in a dark corner, I leaned in to kiss Jessica, but for the first time she turned her head away. "Not now," she said with annoyance. "We'll have plenty of time later." I felt hurt, though I tried not to show it. As the party went on, I grew more and more uncomfortable. Too many people were behaving strangely. Some of the older guests were drunk, while others were clearly on pills, feeling the same rush of excitement I remembered from before. I was relieved I hadn't taken the ones Karting offered. I decided to stick to drinking water. I needed a clear head, especially since Jessica was no longer thinking straight. She had been drinking, and from the dreamy look on her face I could tell she had also taken some of Karting's pills. I tried to keep her away from the crowd, but she seemed drawn back to them. I went to fetch her some food, but when I returned, she was dancing with that man again. I didn't know what to do. After a while I waved to her, and after a few minutes she came over, walking unsteadily. "Was wrong," she mumbled, her words thick as if her mouth was full of cotton. "Why are you dancing with him again?" I asked. "I'm just having some fun. What's wrong with that? You're no fun tonight." "You look like you're at a funeral," she said with a silly smile. "We should go upstairs," I told her. "We need to rest before we leave." "There's plenty of time," she answered, and began to move away. She looked as though she might collapse at any moment. I grabbed her hand, trying to guide her aside, but she pushed me off and went straight back to the man I already disliked. Soon they were dancing again, far too close. I began to wonder if this was the same man she had told me about before, the one who had used her. I noticed he wore a wedding ring. The music suddenly changed to a faster rhythm, and almost everyone joined in the wild dancing. Karting shouted, "Okay, everyone, into the pool." People started pulling off their clothes and jumping into the water. To my shock, Jessica was among them, topless. In the pool, there was splashing and shouting everywhere, and things were getting out of control. I saw the man lift Jessica by the waist and throw her into the water. I watched helplessly. Then, to my horror, she vanished beneath the mass of moving bodies. Without stopping to think, I kicked off my shoes, pulled off my trousers, and dived in. The water felt as warm as soup. At the bottom corner of the pool, I found Jessica lying still, while legs thrashed above her. I managed to grab her and pull her upward. She was heavy, but I dragged her to the surface. Some people helped me lift her out of the water and onto the terrace. She wasn't breathing. Chapter 14. Chaos at the pool. People started to panic straight away, running around in confusion and shouting. I grabbed hold of Karting and shook him hard. "Call the ambulance right now," I told him firmly. "Quick!" I turned Jessica's body over and began giving mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. I was surprised that I still remembered how, from the first aid class I had taken the year before. Then I placed my hands on her chest and pressed down hard, once, twice, 3 times. After what felt like forever, I felt a faint movement in her lungs. Suddenly, water burst from her mouth, and she began to breathe again. But her eyes stayed shut. She was alive, but clearly something was wrong. When I touched her, the feeling was so different from before, when we had been close. Now it felt cold, distant, almost like she was a stranger. Her skin was icy, so cold. Many of the guests had quickly pulled on their clothes and rushed to their cars. But soon, an ambulance with flashing lights blocked the driveway. It was followed by police motorbikes and a car full of uniformed officers. "Nobody leaves," one policeman shouted. "Everyone inside the house, now." The paramedics took over from me and carefully lifted Jessica into the back of the ambulance. As they shut the doors, I asked, "Can I go with her? She's with me." But two policemen grabbed me and pulled me back into the house. There was no use resisting. I stood helplessly as the ambulance drove away. Inside, the police separated us into two groups, the teenagers and the older ones. Each group was taken to a different room. As my group was pushed into the games room, Ka-Ting whispered nervously to me, "Don't say anything about the pills, okay?" His face was pale with fear. He no longer looked like the bold, playful leader of the party. Now he was just a scared boy. A senior officer, maybe an inspector, came in and shut the door. "This is serious," he said. "Very serious. A girl almost died here tonight. She may still die. We don't yet know exactly what happened, but we have our suspicions. If you know what's good for you, you'd better answer truthfully. If you try to hide things, we will find out, and that won't go well for you. Understand?" He stood there, in his dark blue uniform, with shiny silver buttons on his shoulders, slapping his baton against his leg. I was certain he would have liked to use it on us. We all nodded. "Good. Now, whose house is this?" he asked. There was a pause. Then Ka-Ting slowly raised his hand. "How old are you?" "I'm 17, he whispered. "17, is it? And where are your parents? Do they know about this party?" "My dad's in Hong Kong," Ka-Ting replied. "My mum doesn't live here anymore." "And what's been happening here tonight?" the inspector demanded. "Everyone empty your pockets, now." His voice was so loud it made us all jump. He walked back and forth as we each placed the contents of our pockets on the table. The officers collected them into separate plastic bags. I felt relieved that I hadn't accepted the pills from Ka-Ting earlier. When Ka-Ting emptied his, out came a bag of pills and a stack of money. "Right. I want everyone's full name, address, and contact number. Now," he shouted again. "Give them to Sergeant Idris here. Once we have that, and have written down what was in your pockets, you'll all be taken to the station and kept there until tomorrow. Then we'll question you properly." By the time we left the room, several large police vans were waiting outside. 10 of us were shoved roughly into one van, and the rest into another. The doors slammed shut, and the vans drove off. As we left, I noticed the older group being forced into 2 more vans. Flashbulbs went off. Newspaper photographers were already there. Someone must have called the press. The story would appear in the Sunday papers. I prayed our names wouldn't be printed. We couldn't see much from the tiny windows, so I had no idea where we were going. About 30 minutes later, the van stopped and the doors opened. A group of policemen herded us inside a police station. Soon we were locked in small cells, 4 to each one. I looked at my watch. It was 3 in the morning. I felt awful. The others, the ones who had taken pills or drunk too much, looked even worse. My mind turned to Jessica. Where was she? How was she? And who was she, really? How could she have loved me when she acted like that with Suresh? Then I thought about Mum, imagining what she would do when she found out. And I thought of Auntie Chee Seng, wishing I was safe at her house, listening to music. That seemed like another life, far away. I felt filthy and exhausted. I badly needed the toilet. When I called out to a policeman in the corridor, he laughed. "Where you think you are? This not Hilton Hotel. You got one bucket. Use dat." He pointed to a bucket in the corner of the cell. All four of us had to share it. I relieved myself, ashamed in front of the others. The cell was hot and airless. We lay down on the hard wooden boards, trying to sleep, but I couldn't. Each time I shut my eyes, the night's events flashed across my mind. At 7 in the morning, a guard brought a tray with weak, half-cold tea and a bowl of rice porridge for each of us. It wasn't much, but we were so hungry and thirsty that we ate it quickly. Then we just waited. Around 10 they began calling names one by one. At about 11 my turn came. I was led into a small, bare room at the end of the corridor. The inspector sat behind a wooden desk. A weak bulb hung from the ceiling on a thin wire, giving little light. Some daylight came through a tiny barred window high on the wall. I noticed a spider's web in the corner near the ceiling. A single chair stood in front of the table. The inspector pointed at it, and I sat down. "I don't want you wasting my time," he began. "I told you back at the house that I want straight answers to simple questions. The faster you answer, the sooner you can be moved." I didn't like the sound of the word moved. He hadn't said, "Go home." Moved? Moved where? I'd heard about what happened to kids labeled beyond parental control. They didn't go home. They were sent to some awful place. Name? Chee Seng. He looked at the paper in front of him. "We'll be contacting your parents later. Is this your home number?" He read it out and I nodded. "Who invited you to this party?" "Ting," I replied. "How do you know him?" "We're in the same class at school," I said. "How many people did you know at the party?" he asked, staring straight at me. I looked down. "Come on. How many?" he pressed impatiently. "Maybe 4 or 5, I muttered. "What are their names?" Ting, Chee Lick, Wendy, Ruby, and Jessica. The girl who... "Ah, yes, Jessica," he said slowly. "Tell me about Jessica." "She was we were close friends. We were." "She was your girlfriend, right?" "Yes, sir." "And Ting. He invited us to the party, Jessica and me. Had he invited you before, or was this the first time?" "He'd asked me maybe twice before," I admitted. "What about these?" he asked, tossing some pills onto the table. "Do you know what they are?" There was no point in lying. He already knew. "Yes, sir. But they're not mine, sir." "I know that. Did Ting ever give you this kind of thing before?" I hesitated, but it was useless. "Right. He did. Do you know where he got them from?" "No, sir." "How about this man? Do you know him at all?" He showed me a photo of the man Jessica had been dancing with, Suresh. "No, sir. I saw him for the first time tonight. I just know his name is Suresh." "Did he give you anything? Sell you something, maybe?" "No, sir," I answered truthfully. "Okay, I believe you," he said. I felt a wave of relief. "Now, you'll take a drugs test. If it's positive, some very bad things will happen to you, boy. Even if it's negative, we already know you've taken them before." "Yes, sir," I admitted, staring at the floor. "Were you the one who gave the girl mouth-to-mouth?" "Yes, sir," I replied. "Well, maybe that will turn out good for you. You probably saved her life. But she's still in intensive care. She might not survive. And if she doesn't, someone is going to be in serious trouble," he said, staring at the photo of Suresh. "All right, now you'll go back to your cell. I may call you again later." He pointed at the door and a policeman took me back. "What happened between then and the moment I was freed the next afternoon. All I know is that Auntie Chee Seng came to the police station in Petaling Jaya to take me home on Monday afternoon. How did she do it? She told me later that she had known Inspector Sundaram, that was his name, the man who questioned me, when she was younger. He owed her a favour. I never discovered what the favour was, but she surely knew how to use it. It was Chee Seng who convinced the police not to keep me in the cell, but to let me go with a warning. From then on, she was in charge of my behaviour. I was recorded as being beyond parental control. If I got into trouble again, she would have to answer to the police. As we left the police station, she gave my hand a squeeze. "Don't worry, Chee Seng," she said softly. "I'll see that you're all right. And your mum, too. But there's a lot I need to explain. I'd better tell you what has happened before we go to see her." And she began to do just that. Chapter 15. Auntie's Wisdom. In the taxi on the way to the hospital, Auntie Chee Seng explained what had happened. Mum had returned late on Saturday night. She was so exhausted that she went straight to bed without checking whether I was asleep. Only on Sunday morning did she realize I was gone. She phoned Auntie Chee Seng to ask if I had stayed at her place that night. Auntie Chee Seng came over immediately. Together they discovered my things were missing. It was clear that I had run away. It became even clearer when Mum noticed that some of her money was gone too. "Your mother was so upset," Chee Seng. "I'm not blaming you, but you should know how badly it hurt her." She cried non-stop. "We even called your father to check if you had gone to him. He came over, but that only made things worse. They just blamed each other for everything. Then we got a call from Jane, Jessica's kind sister. She told us about Jessica's accident and the police raid. You can imagine how that affected your mum. And then we read the report in the Star about the accident and the arrest of many teenagers with drugs. The headline was, "Teenage Drug Party, Tragedy." The Straits Times also carried the story. "Tragedy at Teenage Pool Party." They didn't print your name, but we both knew you were deeply involved. I began to see how foolish and selfish I had been. Auntie Chee Seng continued. "I started calling people to find out what I could. When I was younger, I had a good friend in the police. I soon found out where you were being held. But I couldn't reach you before Monday. That's when I learned it was Inspector Sundaram, my old friend, who was handling the case. I went to see him and reminded him of something from his past. That was enough for him to let you go with just a warning. I realized how fortunate I had been. Without Auntie Chee Seng, I might still be stuck in that police cell with no chance of release. But I'm sorry, Chee Seng. I have something terrible to tell you. Your mother is in the Central Hospital in intensive care. Last night she took a whole bottle of sleeping pills. Luckily, she called me when she regretted it, and I got her to the hospital. She's unconscious now, and we don't know if she will recover. I felt as if the ground had fallen away beneath me. I had run away, and Mum had tried to take her life. My mind went blank. What had I done? How could I forgive myself? Auntie Chee Seng held my hand. "I'm sorry, Chee Seng. I know it's hard. But don't think it's only your fault. These things happen when someone is hit by one problem after another. Your mother has suffered since your father left. She's carried the burden of raising you alone, with all her work troubles. Last Friday she was dismissed. Office, politics, nothing else. But her job was gone, and she didn't know how she would manage for money. Then yesterday she found out you had run away and were in trouble with the police. That was too much. Sometimes people break when the pressure is too great. It's not your fault. It's not your mother's fault. It's just life. If fault is even the right word. That's how it is sometimes." As she spoke, the taxi entered the gates of the central hospital, and I knew something frightening was waiting for me. I hated hospitals. I hated their smell and the heavy air of fear. Chapter 16, 17, and beyond. So here we are, waiting. A doctor walks into the waiting room. He looks kind, but his face shows worry. "Good morning. I'm Dr. Ong," he says, sitting down with us. "I'm afraid your mother is still in a serious state. We're doing all we can for her, but she took a very large overdose of pills. She is stable for now, but we won't know more until tomorrow. The best thing you can do is go home and wait for our call. I'm sorry I can't tell you more at the moment." When we arrive back home, everything feels both familiar and strange. I had left here only 2 nights earlier, thinking it would be for the last time, and now I am back again. And there, at the front door with her usual bright smile, is Puri. Puri has returned. She came back last night, right in the middle of all the trouble. "Hello, Chee Seng," she says. "I make you some special fish and chips and banana fritters for dessert." Just like before. And of course she says nothing about Mum. Nobody wants to mention what has happened yet. Auntie Chee Seng decides to move in with us until we know more about Mum. She takes the spare room next to mine. Somehow it makes me feel safe to know she is so close. She unpacks her bag, then comes downstairs to sit with me before dinner. She has brought some CDs with her and puts one on. It is music by Handel. I thought Handel had only written The Messiah, so I am surprised to hear this piece called Water Music. Auntie Chee Seng tells me how King George I of England asked Handel to compose it, and how it was played on boats on the River Thames. The telephone rings. We both hurry to answer it, but it is not news about Mum. It is Jane. She tells me Jessica is now out of danger and recovering in a private hospital. Would I like to see her? I say I will call tomorrow. For now, Mum is my first priority. Later, after dinner, I asked Auntie Chee Seng, "I've been wondering, how did the story with Mr. Garner end?" "All right, I'll tell you. Everyone wants to know the ending, don't they? Well, the British manager returned. Garner was due for leave. He was driving to Ipoh to catch the train to meet me in Kuala Lumpur. It was evening. The road was dark, and it was raining hard. Somehow, his car hit a tree, and he was killed instantly. I didn't know what to say. It seemed so cruel, but there was more. My sister Rosie told me about it. She saw it in the newspaper. I couldn't bear to read it, or look at the photos of the crash. I didn't sleep for days, and I think I cried until no more tears were left. My life was over. "But you said you went to Singapore?" I said. "How did that happen?" "I'm not sure I should be telling you this, but since I've said so much already, I may as well continue. It's been many years since I've spoken about it. Everyone in the family just wanted to forget. But soon after Garner died, I discovered I was expecting his child. Daddy had to know. Of course, he was furious. He called a family meeting, and they decided I should be sent to Singapore to hide me and stop gossip. So that's what happened." Her eyes filled with tears. I couldn't ask more about Singapore, and she didn't offer to explain. Some things are better left unsaid. "It's late, Chee Seng," she said. "I'm sorry if my story upset you, but it wasn't the end of my life. Who knows if Garner and I would have been happy anyway? Maybe not. And as for Daddy and the family, I forgave them long ago. But as you can see, I never forgot. I never married. Instead, I became everyone's aunt. All right, time for bed now. Sleep well, Chee Seng." She kissed me lightly on the cheek. As I went upstairs, she started playing Water Music again. It was late, but I lay awake. I couldn't stop thinking about Auntie Chee Seng's story. I wondered how anyone could live through what she had without losing their mind. Then I thought about the rest of us. Would Mum recover? How would she manage after leaving hospital if she got better? How would Jessica handle her own troubles? How would Dad deal with the mess he caused? And how would I face what I had done? Faces, scenes, and moments kept turning in my head like the shapes in my old kaleidoscope. They formed one pattern, then broke apart and formed new ones. At last I fell asleep, but the shifting images troubled my dreams. The next morning the hospital called. Mum had woken up. She was out of danger, and we could visit her that afternoon. What a relief! When we arrived, she was sitting up in bed, sipping from a glass. The curtains were open, and the room was filled with light. The tubes had been removed from her nose and arms. She smiled faintly. Her eyes were shadowed, and her arms were bruised blue and yellow. But she looked more like herself again. "Hello, Mum," I said awkwardly. "You're looking better." Suddenly a wave of love came over me, and I rushed into her open arms. "I'm sorry, Mum," I cried. "I'm so sorry." She was crying too, but with relief. She looked at Auntie Chee Seng and said, "Chee Seng, thank you so much for everything. What would we have done without you?" Auntie Chee Seng smiled and quietly left us together. Mum and I had a long talk. I tried to tell her as much as I could about what had happened. I even told her about Jessica, though not everything. Thankfully, she didn't ask too many questions. The best part was that she would be coming home soon. Home. Then she spoke about Dad. "Did you know your father came to see me? He told me he's broken up with Auntie Vina. She's gone back to Uncle Krish." "No, I didn't know," I replied. "He wants to come back home," she continued. "What do you think?" I hesitated. Honestly, I wasn't comfortable with the idea of having him back, but I wasn't sure how she felt. So I said, "I don't know, Mum. I think about him a lot, but it feels strange now. After all that's happened, how could things ever go back to normal?" "Don't worry," she said. "I told him I don't want him back. Not now, at least. It's too soon. And maybe I'll never want him back after what he's done to us. I still can't forgive him for that." "No," was all I could say. "But he's still your father," she reminded me. "Maybe you should think about seeing him sometimes. I know he misses you a lot. It's up to you, though. Just think about it. Now we take each day as it comes." Auntie Chee Seng spoke with the school principal, and they agreed it would be better if I didn't return to school until Mum was home. I might have to repeat a year, but every day Chee Seng gave me lessons to do, interesting ones, books I had never seen before, problems to solve. I hadn't realized she had been a teacher for 30 years. It was actually better than school. And every day we went to visit Mum. The doctor said she could be home by next week. One day, as we left the hospital, I saw Dad arriving with a big bunch of roses. I felt mixed up about him. I still wasn't sure I wanted him back. That evening Dad called me. He wanted us to meet. I didn't really want to, but he kept insisting. So we agreed to meet the next afternoon at the Copitium, a few blocks away. I didn't want him coming to the house. The Copitium was quiet at that time, between lunch and the evening crowd. We sat outside at a small table. He ordered sweet teh tarik for himself and a big ice kachang for me, the crushed ice covered with red and green syrup. "I want you to listen carefully," he said, as we got to the serious part of the talk. "I know I've hurt you, and your mum. There's nothing I can do except say I'm sorry. And I truly am sorry. There's no use trying to explain or make excuses, because there aren't any. Maybe one day, like me, you'll find yourself caught in something you can't stop. You know it's wrong, but you're already too deep to get out. I think about myself and Jessica. I believe I understand what Dad means. In my own way, I've been almost as foolish as he was. And I've hurt Mum too, so I can't pretend I'm innocent. But I still feel angry with him for what he did. Maybe if he hadn't run off with Auntie Vina, none of the rest would have happened. Or maybe it would have anyway. I feel mixed up. Like Auntie Chee Seng always says, things happen. Dad keeps talking. I've asked Mum to let me move back in with you. She says it's too soon. What do you think? What could I say? I pushed at my ice kachang, which was melting quickly in the afternoon heat. I don't know, Dad, I muttered, without lifting my head. Well, listen. I told Mum she won't need to worry about money anymore. She won't have to work, so that will take away some of her stress. And we're thinking of sending you to an international school when the new year starts. Till then, you can have private lessons. I'll pay for everything. In the meantime, you and I should meet often, maybe every weekend. We can do things together like we used to. What do you say? Does he think he can buy us back? I didn't like the idea, and I hated that he talked to Mum about me behind my back. Maybe, Dad, but not now. Mum has to get better first, and I'm not sure about meeting you yet. I'm sorry, but you don't feel like the same person anymore. He didn't argue, but I could see he was disappointed. What did he expect me to do? Run into his arms? He still didn't know I'd seen him with Auntie Vina in the bedroom. Maybe it was best if he never knew. Before I left, he asked, "What do you want for your birthday, Chee Seng? It's next Sunday." I'd completely forgotten about my birthday after everything that had happened. It sounded again like he was trying to buy my love. I hated that. I couldn't think of anything I wanted. "Don't worry about it, Dad," I said. As I walked away, he called after me, "I'll give you a call, all right?" I nodded, but kept walking, without looking back. The days seem to pass quickly now. It is already Friday, nearly a week since Jessica and I had planned to run away. I call Jane. I like her, and I've been thinking a lot about Jessica. She seems to be out of danger now and should be going home soon. But then what, I wonder? Jane picks me up that afternoon. On the way to the private hospital, we talk. "So, Chee Seng, how are you? How can I ever thank you for saving Jessica's life? If you hadn't jumped in, she would have drowned." "It was just luck," I reply. But inside, I am thinking how lucky it is that Jane doesn't know the whole story. Luck? Maybe. Did you know she almost died from the mix of pills she took? I just wonder where she got them. Not from you, I hope. No, not from me. The police are still holding some of the others, including Ting, and that Suresh man, both of them, are bad news. I changed the subject. "How is Jessica now?" "She's past the worst," Jane answers. "They say she'll be able to go home early next week. Then Mum and Dad will take her to Australia in a couple of weeks, once she's strong enough to travel." I don't reply. I let the words sink in. Strangely, I feel almost relieved that Jessica will soon be leaving. Jessica has her own room at the hospital. She is propped up with many pillows. Her face is pale, and there are dark circles under her eyes. She smiles as I walk in. Jane politely finds an excuse to leave us alone. I wonder how much she really knows about Jessica and me. "How are you, Jessica?" I ask. It sounds silly, but I can't think of anything else. "I'm better now, Chee Seng," she says with a weak smile. "I ache everywhere, and at first I was sick all the time. But now I'm mostly fine." "I'm glad," I reply. But I realize I don't care about her as much anymore. I wonder how she feels about me. "Chee Seng, they tell me you saved my life. I still don't remember clearly what happened at the pool. But thank you." I really mean it. Well, you must have been pushed under the water with all those people. You'd had quite a lot to drink, and too many pills as well. You were acting strangely all night. I'm sorry, Chee Seng. I think it was all the stress about running away. Strange to think we really believed we could escape to Thailand, isn't it? Just a childish dream. I suppose so, I agree. But it didn't feel like it then. Not for me either. Now they're sending me to Australia anyway. Maybe that's for the best. What do you think? Maybe, I answer, though one question burns inside me. I have to ask it. What about Suresh? Is he the man you had problems with last year? She reaches for my hand. Yes, he island. I don't know what got into me that night. It was so foolish after what he did to me before. I don't know why I acted that way. I still don't understand it myself, but I like you, you know. I like you too, I answer. But we both know it will never be the same between us. And I think we both feel relieved. When Jane drops me at my house, she touches my arm. Chee Seng, I know what happened. I don't blame you. But I think it's best for everyone if Jessica goes away. It's time to grow up now. Don't be angry with her or with us. And please, stay in touch. We like you, and Jessica will miss you. Don't forget us. Then she drives away. The next day is Saturday. I notice Auntie Chee Seng and Puri whispering together. They go to the market and return with many bags. Then I hear lots of noise from the kitchen. Something is going on. On Sunday morning, Auntie Chee Seng has already gone out. Puri says she doesn't know where she went, but I'm sure she does. She stays busy in the kitchen, cooking something I can't see. Around midday, Auntie Chee Seng returns. She opens the car door and out steps. Mum! Mum is back! Puri runs to greet her. I carry Mum's bag upstairs to her room. Mum, Auntie Chee Seng, and Puri stand together in front of the kitchen door. The smell of delicious food comes from inside. It is clear we will have a very special lunch. Then Mum gives me an envelope with a card. Happy birthday, Chee Seng, she says, and hugs me warmly. She points at a package on the hall table. Open it. It's your present. I think you may have lost the other one. I untie the string and open it. A brand new laptop. My face grows hot with shame. I left my old laptop at Karting's that night and never got it back. Maybe it's still in the police station with my backpack. How did Mum know it was gone? And I wonder how much Auntie Chee Seng knows. Perhaps Inspector Sundaram told her. Next, Auntie Chee Seng gives me a box wrapped in red paper with gold ribbon. Happy birthday, Chee Seng. Open it. Inside is a leather photo album. On the first page is a picture of my great-grandparents. On the next, my grandparents. Then my parents, my uncles, my aunts, and me as a baby. There is also one picture of Auntie Chee Seng with Ghana. I thought you might like to keep it going, she says with a smile. We're in this together, don't forget. There are plenty more pages to fill. I want to cry, but instead I hug her tightly. Then Puri gives me a small package wrapped in brown paper. I bring for you from my country, she says. My sister make for you. Inside is a beautiful cotton shirt with decorations. You try, maybe? She suggests. I put it on in my room. It fits perfectly, and I feel like a prince in it. It's wonderful, I say, and I wear it for the rest of the day. We enjoy a fantastic lunch, made by Puri and Auntie Chee Seng, with all my favourite dishes. Sotong, with ladies' fingers in red pepper sauce, curried chicken, Assam laksa, steamed sea bass, with lime and garlic, roast duck with thin pancakes. The table is almost too small for all the food. Dessert is a rich cake, with raisins, nuts, cinnamon, ginger, and covered in cream. It tastes like a dream. We finish every crumb. Later in the afternoon, Faisal, Cartoon, and Dev come by. I feel guilty for how I treated them before, but they bring me gifts. Dev gives me a new basketball. Faisal brings one of his paintings in a frame, and Cartoon gives me the latest computer game. I feel happy. These are my real friends, even if I let them down. We go to the park and play basketball until dark. Before dinner, the doorbell rings. Puri opens it. It's Dad. He comes in holding a small bamboo cage. From it jumps a puppy, soft and warm, full of life. He reminds me of Raj, and my heart aches as I hold him. I thank Dad. Mum is upstairs and doesn't come down until he leaves. Now I am 17. I know my family loves me. I have a dog again, and this time I'll care for him properly. I know I am part of a long history, with both joy and pain. I know things are not always as they seem. I know we all need forgiveness for something. I know we can forgive, but not always forget. I know love is not always simple. I know things happen, but also that people can rise above them. And I know, most of all, that I don't know what comes next. I'm 17, and there's still time for many things to happen. Later that evening, Dad calls. "Chee Seng," he says. "Happy birthday. I love you, no matter what you think. Can we have lunch next Saturday? I'd really like that." "Let me think about it," I reply. "Maybe." Thank you for staying with this emotional story. If it touched you or helped you practice English, please like this video, share it with friends, and subscribe for more inspiring stories. And don't forget, leave a comment below and tell us what message you took away from today's story. We'd love to hear your thoughts.